Valguero is the latest map in Ark Survival Ascended, with new creatures to tame like the Mega Raptor and Elderclaw, as well as the return of a fan favorite, the Deinonychus. There is also a whole new boss to beat in the form of a massive Mega Raptor named Grendel. So of course I will be attempting to survive 100 days on this new map with the goals of taming all the new creatures, building an awesome rustic treehouse, and taking on the boss with an unusual army. But really quick before we begin our journey, I wanted to say a huge thank you to War Thunder for sponsoring today's video. I'll have more info about that shortly, but for now, let's jump straight into Valguero. My journey began by spawning into Beach Zone 2, an area I thought would give the perfect balance of safety and opportunity, close enough to the chalk hills for an early shot at the coveted Deinonychus eggs. The air was calm, the waves steady, it was almost too peaceful. Not far from my spawn, I spotted a Moschops, my would-be first companion, but of course, it wanted something ridiculous for taming.
Giant bee honey. Wouldn't be it. Wouldn't be a playthrough. Wouldn't be a playthrough if the first Moschops we found didn't want giant bee honey. Rare flower. Wouldn't be my playthroughs. Wouldn't be one of my playthroughs if that was not the start.
So I got to work instead, gathering the basic materials and crafting my first pickaxe and hatchet. With my starter tools in hand, I began crafting my first spears, and that's when something small and fluttering caught my eye. A wild baby pteranodon.
Oh! Hold on, baby! There's a baby pteranodon! Oh, look at that little big head! It's just like me, it's got a big head.
With that distraction over, I shifted my focus to gathering hide, hunting down every dodo I could find and reintroducing them to extinction. While doing this, I stumbled upon some turtle carcasses, which I would gather for their keratin I would need to eventually craft a pteranodon saddle. As I made my way down the beach, I found a few more, and with them I already had enough keratin. My peaceful butchering was soon interrupted though by a dillo who saw me as competition. A few well-placed thrusts of my spear, and the pest was dealt with. And with it out of the way, I stitched together my first set of cloth armor, and as the night began setting in on my first day here, I set up a campfire to begin cooking my hard-earned meat. My journey had just begun, but I had laid claim to a small little chunk of sand. The next day began simply enough, gathering resources, crafting a few bolas, a bow, and a small handful of arrows. Everything was going smooth, until from down the beach, a massive T-Rex came lumbering into my territory, ready to claim my land as its own.
Oh, well what do you know? It's a T-Rex, look at that. That is hilarious. I am so happy that a T-Rex is just strolling up the beach.
But fate threw me the perfect distraction. The Rex turned its attention to a baby turtle that it couldn't seem to reach. While it was busy, I drew my bow and began firing. Arrow after arrow sank into its hide until my quiver ran dry. I scrambled to craft more, heart pounding, determined to take this thing down before it noticed me.
As long as he continues to fail to bite that turtle, this Rex is going down, baby.
For a moment, it almost worked. I had it bleeding bad, but the Rex killed the baby turtle and instantly healed. My chance was gone, so I backed off, crossed the river, and found a white ring supply drop with a few semi-useful scraps.
Oh, we take that. We take that. We take that. We take that. Sure. Why not? Let's just take it all.
When I returned to the beach, I spotted a Moschops that by some miracle only wanted a mejoberry for taming. Before I could tame it though, the Rex came storming in chasing after a parasaur. Luckily, it wasn't in the mood for Moschops and churned away, leaving me just enough time to slip it a mejoberry for the tame. With it done, I decided it was time to abandon my original camp to the Rex and move farther up the beach. After taking out a raptor in my new spot, I named my first tame of the playthrough, Leather Heather. From there, me and Heather got to work setting up a small camp in this new spot, complete with a sign to ward off the nearby Rex.
That'll keep him away.
Next, I crafted a few mortar and pestles, gathered narcoberries, and started cooking up some narcotics. While those are going, let me quickly tell you more about the sponsor for today's video. War Thunder is the most comprehensive vehicle combat game ever made, and is available now for free on PC, consoles, and mobile devices. Whether you're into biplanes and armored cars of the 1920s or modern day fighter jets and tanks, War Thunder offers over 2,500 tanks, planes, helicopters, and ships from 10 major nations, allowing you to play however you want. With incredibly detailed vehicles, realistic graphics, and authentic sound effects, you'll feel like you're behind the helm of whatever powerful war machine you choose. It simply doesn't get much more immersive than War Thunder. And with 3 distinct game modes, there is something for everyone. From arcade mode that offers fast-paced matches for those who want to get straight into the action, to simulator mode that ditches all guardrails and provides a true challenge for even the best players. And finally, realistic mode that hits that sweet middle ground. However you choose to play, you're sure to have a blast. Some other great features that I really enjoyed were the in-depth customization system, allowing you to apply countless camouflages, historical markings, and decorations for all types of vehicles. And the X-ray damage view showing exactly what happens when an enemy vehicle is destroyed. you get to see where the shell penetrated, what part of the enemy vehicle was affected, and what led to their eventual demise. It's just a really cool feature that pushes immersion even further. So what are you waiting for? Join a global community of over 95 million players today and dive nose first into the epic PvP battles that War Thunder has to offer. With so much high quality content to discover, there is just no better game for fans of military history than War Thunder. But make sure you use my links in the pinned comment and video description to receive a massive bonus pack that is available for new and returning players that haven't played for at least 6 months on either PC or consoles. When you sign up using my link, you will receive the exclusive vehicle decorator Eagle of Valor, 100,000 silver lions, and 7 days of premium account access. But be quick, as this offer is only available for a limited time. Those narcotics should be done brewing though, so let's get back into the action. By the end of the night, I had enough to craft some trank arrows. Nearby, a level 100 Pteranodon landed on the shores, and so I hit it with a bola and used my new arrows to drop it where it stood.
There we go.
Just when I thought I was making some real progress, the next day brought more chaos. Before I could even get the Pteranodon tamed, an Allosaurus came stomping into my new base spot like it was here to collect the rent. Before I could even react, my poor PT had become its early morning breakfast. I figured maybe Leatherheather and I could take it. We waited atop a rock for it to charge, tooth and claw against a walking blender of teeth. For a while, the fight looked even, until I was forced to retreat into the water. That's when disaster struck again.
Oh, come on. Can we make it? Can we make it? Come on. No. No. Not like this. Not in the water. Oh, come on, man. Gosh. And then to get one on me too. Oh, screw you, brother.
I managed to make it to the water's edge and pressed on, heartbroken but stubborn. Across the water, I spotted a 145 male Moschops, the perfect replacement, but of course, it wanted bee honey. So I went back to hunting pests and scouting for new tames, wandering until I found a field filled with kangaroos.
We get our, oh, there's multiple, oh my gosh, look at all the kangaroos!
And some less than impressive Doids and Ankylosaurus. But then I saw it, a level 130 Anky. First though, I needed to deal with that Allo. I lured it towards the Anky herd in hopes they could deal with it for me.
Yes! I did it! Get in there, brother! Get involved! I'll get involved too!
Instead, the Allo slaughtered everything, including me. I circled back again, grabbed my gear, and tried again as it was now distracted with Doids. But again, I was met with the same fate. So after sneaking in again to grab my gear from under its feet, I decided to leave it for now, heading back down the beach towards where the Rex had stationed itself, and here I found an even better Pteranodon, this one being a level 145. Without hesitation, I bowled it, loaded it with tranks, and watched it fall fast asleep. By the end of the day, I was right back where I had ended day 2. The morning started with promise. I found a baby horse wandering nearby and harvested it for the prime meat to speed up my new Pteranodon's taming. Not long after, I stumbled upon a high-level Parasaur, a solid early game mount. I dropped it with a few shots and began the taming process. Then, as always, something showed up to ruin my fun. This time, a pair of raptors. I managed to hit one with the bola and even got a few trank shots in before its friend noticed. They chased me straight into the water and just stood at the shoreline, daring me to try coming ashore.
Just leave my Parasaur and my Pteranodon alone. We'll all go home happy.
Instead, I regrouped across the water, restocking my arrows and bolas, and even crafting a saddle for my soon-to-be Parasaur. But when I returned, the raptors had found it first. I threw bolas at both in a desperate rescue attempt, but I failed miserably to get it out of harm's way, and my brand new Parasaur was gone.
Oh gosh, that's not what I wanted. Come on, Parasaur. No! You friggin' bombs!
I trudged back to base and began preparing my revenge, crafting more arrows for knocking them both out. But apparently, the raptors had followed me all the way home, tearing through my Pteranodon before I could even blink.
They followed me all the way over here and killed my Pteranodon. Are you kidding me?
I bowled them both in anger and began loading one with every arrow I had, but it stood strong, and eventually they broke free. I scrambled away and found safety atop a nearby rock. Now trapped, I crafted myself a slingshot and began raining down stones on the one I had loaded with arrows. It wasn't working though, so in a moment of peace, I jumped down to gather the resources needed to make more bolas and some boomerangs. I tied them both up and knocked them both out Aussie style.
Hey, and she's down, baby! That's one. And she's down, baby! The boomerang comes through. I forgot about the boomerang. Why have we not been using the dang boomerang?
While they slept, I found one of their babies nearby, and well, I turned it into the prime meat for taming. The first one tamed, but of course I didn't have quite enough meat for the second, and in a desperate rush to find more, I ignored my food draining and eventually passed out in the sands from hunger.
I passed out. This is such a disaster. The raptor's almost finished taming. I'm just having a really bad night, okay?
When I came to though, my new raptor had gathered some more meat for me, and I fed it to her sister. That's when another aloe showed up, ready to ruin yet another tame.
They're both females though. Oh,
Hello there.
come on, brother. I need you to wake up like right now. I need you to wake up like right now.
Thankfully, the second raptor would wake up just in time, and they were able to deal with the aloe. Job, squad! This day didn't come without its own fails and frustrations, but finally, I had a few good tames on my team. Still needing something reliable for berry gathering, I knocked out another high-level parasaur, and while it slept, I outfitted my new raptors with some saddles for extra protection. From there, I began gathering the berries my parasaur would need for taming, when I noticed something odd sticking up from out of the ground.
Wait, are these carrots? These are carrots. What the heck? There's just carrots lying around. There's horses over here to be tamed.
I offered them up to the parasaur along with the berries, and the taming was well underway. While it did, I worked out names for my raptor sisters, naming them Kate and Ashley. Before long, the parasaur had finished taming as well, so I slapped on the saddle I had crafted earlier and went straight to work gathering some more narco berries. Once I had a decent little haul in hand, I named my newest friend Algae. Next up, I wanted to get some metal cooking, which of course meant I needed a forge. So first, I harvested some more down turtles for hide and gathered what stone I needed to get it crafted. I placed it down and threw in what little metal I had gathered to this point. I would need more though, so I headed back down the river towards some river rocks. But first, I stopped off to check the levels of a Doid and Anki that were traveling together near my base.
Yes, that's a 145. What's this Anki? There's two Ankies over here. 145? Whoa, baby! Woo! We know what we're doing with that crossbow when we get it.
Those would have to wait though. First, I had river rocks to harvest for what little metal they could offer. Once I had enough, I took it back to base to cook, and when enough had finished, I got my first smithy down and crafted my first metal tool, the pickaxe. I needed more though, and so I worked through the night, chipping away at river rocks with my new shiny tool. When I got back to base to smelt some more metal, I heard the last sound I wanted. The roar of that same aloe that had already killed me twice. But this time, I wasn't helpless. Kate and Ashley leapt into the fight like avenging angels, and together, we brought the beast down. Its death gave me just enough experience to hit level 38, unlocking the long-awaited Pteranodon saddle. And with fresh metal cooked, I crafted a proper crossbow and a metal hatchet, tools of a survivor finally finding his footing. Then, I cleaned out the beach of every dodo, listro, and turtle in sight for hide, scanning the skies the whole time for a new flyer.
Hey! Where you going, brother? Come on back now, you hear?
I found plenty of Pteranodons, just not any good ones. That is until I spotted a level 140. I hit it with trank arrows, dropped it cleanly, and fed it prime meat from a freshly downed baby Dilo. To be safe, I hunted another for some extra prime. After a long wait, the Pteranodon stood tamed, I crafted saddle, and once back at base, named the newest tame, Periwinkle. High on the recent victories, I pushed my luck. Down the river, I began knocking out the 145 Doid I had seen yesterday, when a raptor came charging in mid-trank. I acted fast though, taking out the raptor with ease, and it was back to loading the Doid with arrows, until it collapsed into the sand. I started the next morning reinforcing my Doid's taming spot with a ring of spike walls to keep any uninvited guests out. Once it was secure, I fed it a hearty supply of berries from Algae's saddle and set out to gather more narco berries to keep my narcotics empire growing. While that tamed, I turned my attention to another task, getting skill points for the skill tree perks. All I had left to do was to knock out a Dilophosaurus and tame it with above 90% effectiveness, which I did using some prime meat from a baby parasaur. Once it was tamed, it granted me 3 skill points, which I used to unlock all 3 tiers of experienced killer. Then I did the only thing you should do with a useless tame you're forced to tame for skill points. I killed it. Feeling confident, I took to the skies on Periwinkle to scout for Deinonychus nests, and right away, I hit the jackpot, a level 140 egg. While I was up here, I collected some crystal too, just enough to finally craft a spyglass. My search continued and a second nest had another great find, a level 130 egg.
Another egg. What's this one? 130, baby! Nice.
And before long, I'd be grabbing 2 more, one level 65 and another level 115. Not all perfect, but I wasn't picky. I needed a full clutch for a future kibble-making army. As I continued exploring, I stopped by one of the high mountain points to check on the artifact that used to sit there. To my surprise, it had been moved and replaced with rich metal and crystal veins. Honestly though, I was very happy to see this, as the artifacts on the old map were just too easy to come by. When I returned home with my 4 eggs, I crafted a preserving bin and filled it with spark powder I had gotten from a white drop I picked up earlier. My growing collection of Deinonychus eggs went inside, safe and cool. Next, I tended to my Doed, feeding her enough narcoberries to keep her snoozing safely through the taming process. With that handled, I turned my attention to the next big task, hatching the Deinonychus eggs, crafting standing torches and setting them up in a ring formation. I threw out one of the eggs, and to my surprise, I only needed to light 3 torches to begin hatching them. While the eggs warmed, I gathered more metal and wood, crafting a feeding trough to prepare for the incoming hatchlings, stocking it with meat my raptors had gathered. When the babies finally cracked through their shells, I was hit with an Explorer Node XP boost I hadn't planned for. The celebration didn't last long though. I heard raptors nearby and rushed out on Periwinkle to deal with them, but my Pteranodon wasn't built for this kind of fight. I called in Kate and Ashley instead, and the two tore through the pack with brutal efficiency. But not far from the battle was a wild Deinonychus, too close for comfort. It was ever clear that I needed to secure my base, so I harvested wood and crafted spike walls, both for protection and to take advantage of the experience boost. As I prepared to set them up, I noticed the Doed had finished taming in the middle of all the chaos, and so I freed her from her spikes and repurposed them to create the perimeter of my base. Next, I crafted more spark powder to keep my preserving bin running, and then took a moment to name my new Doed Summer Sky. With her on the team, it was only right I crafted her a proper saddle, and then I ended the day restocking my supply of stone arrows. I started the next morning turning my stash of arrows into trank arrows, ready for the 145 Anki I'd spotted days ago. But before I could hunt it down, my crossbow needed repairs. That meant one thing, a metal run. On my way up the cliffs, I couldn't resist checking the Deinonychus nests again. I was casually scanning the ledges when I would get a nice jump scare from the cliffside.
Oh my gosh, what are you doing up there? What the heck? What in the world was the other's an egg here? Okay, that was so crazy.
There was a nest here though, so I swooped in to grab the egg, and it ended up being another level 110. From there, I continued to the top of the cliffside to harvest the metal I had come for. Once it was smelted down, I fixed up my crossbow and went back for the Yankee. I baited it all the way back towards my base, though it didn't make it quite as close as I'd hoped for before going down. Still, I got it knocked out cleanly and ringed it with spiked walls for protection, feeding it berries to keep it happy while it tamed. Back home, the Deinonychus babies were getting bigger and tangled in each other. I tried getting them to separate, but they were stuck, leading me to ask an important question.
I'm gonna have to punch them loose. Punching a baby doesn't affect it, does it?
After a little wrestling match, they were finally spaced out enough, and soon after, were ready for their first imprints. With that done, I jumped on Summer Sky and went on a quick stone run. Then I harvested more wood and thatch and began crafting my first few stone gates I'll need for a trap to tame my next target, the Argentavis. A little more gathering gave me enough resources to finish off the remaining pieces of the trap, and with everything prepped, I set out on the hunt. Not far from home though, I was distracted by a pair of Deinonychus nests.
Oh, there's 2 nests here. Oh, buddy, jackpot.
After baiting the flock, protecting them over a cliff, and dealing with a pesky sabertooth, I swooped in to grab them both. Sadly, they were both low levels, but still a few more to add to my collection. A short detour took me to a nearby lake where I spotted some massive beaver dams just begging to be looted.
I mean, if there's no beavers guarding it, you know, might as well. Oh my gosh, look at all that cementing paste.
From there, it was back on task, finding a high-level Argent. I began spotting several, however none of them were decent levels, until finally, luck turned my way and I spotted an absolute beast.
50? 150, baby! There it is! Yes, yes, yes! That is what you wanna see.
Nearby were some ruins that looked like Weathertop from the Lord of the Rings movie, which would make for a great taming spot. I just first had to clear out some scorpions. Once the ruins were clear, I lured the Argent up to them, where I would set up my gate trap and locked it in for easy taming.
Boom, got it. Alright, there it is. Nice, he's trapped.
First though, I prepped some quick thatch foundations to lay under its feet, taking no chances this Argent would sink through the mesh like so many before it, as I knocked it out atop the thatch. Next, I needed prime meat for feeding it, and while searching for babies, I spotted one of my favorite tames, a Karchar. It was tempting, but way out of my league for now. Instead, I continued my hunt for prime, but found something even better instead.
Oh, even better. Oh, even better. Oh.
With mutton in hand, I returned to the Argent to feed it, getting the taming underway, and while it tamed, I went on a little drop run to pass the time. A yellow drop gave me a shiny new pike, followed by a purple ring drop with a weird assortment of sorta good loot. Then came a yellow ring drop with not one, but 2 Ascendant U-Tyrannus saddle blueprints, each one equally expensive to craft.
Well, they're both, you know, a little, wow, 5,000 pearls. That is not fun.
Finally, I hit one more purple drop, which unfortunately had nothing too exciting within it. From there, I returned to the ruins to find my Argentavis tame. On the flight home, I stopped to grab a drop, which had a fine tool for gathering fiber.
Ooh, take that sickle. Take that sickle.
Back at base, I discovered my Anki's taming tracker had glitched.
It should have tamed before it woke up. Oh my gosh. All right, hold on. No, I got this. I got to check this first.
But right as I was about to worry, it tamed right in front of me.
No, what the? That should not have happened. The Anki should have tamed before it woke up. It was doing fine. Wait, what? The Anki did tame before it woke up.
And to top it off, all of my Deinonychus wanted cuddles, giving me full imprints on the whole batch. While here I built a large storage box to stash my growing pile of loot, then returned to escort the Anki home. And once I got it home, I named my new tames. The Argentavis was named Grayskull. And the Anki was named Jalapeno. With those done, I harvested a few more turtles for hide and used it to craft a saddle for Jalapeno. But the need for hide never stops, and so my harvesting spree continued when I would speak a drakeling into existence.
You know, I haven't seen any yet. I haven't seen any drakelings yet. I mean, I might just not be in the spot to find them, to be honest. Like, bruh. How does that happen? How do you say I've not seen any drakelings yet, and then on a beach you've never been to, you see a drakeling?
Moving on from the drakeling, my harvesting continued until I ran into something else that really got my interest.
Ooh, a bee. Oh my gosh, I have Gilly. I don't have bug spray, but I have Gilly.
So I raced back to base, grabbing what Gilly armor I had and a handful of rare flowers. But the bee was a slippery one, and my first few attempts at taming it ended in chaos with its minions chasing me off. The next morning started with more failed bee taming attempts. No matter how sneaky I tried to be, without bug spray, it was hopeless. I finally admitted defeat and headed home, but on the way spotted another bee, and so I marked its location for future taming. Instead, I took my frustration out on vegetation, heading out with my new sickle to gather a mountain of fiber I needed for crafting 3 Deinonychus saddles so I could reposition my feathery friends and get them breeding for eggs I thought I would need for making extraordinary kibble. Once the eggs were laid, I scooped them up as well as others I had in the preserving bin, with my plan first being to use them to tame an oviraptor. And during my search for one, I found a turtle and parasaur egg that I would scoop up also to use for taming. With a bag full of eggs, I pressed on searching, but plans changed fast when I spotted a level 145 drakeling terrorizing the beach. I pulled out my torch and began trying to get its attention, only to have a flying sea rat interrupt my plans.
Hey, where are you going? Stupid. Oh, it took an egg! Oh no! Oh my gosh, dude, you gotta be kidding me.
In the panic of stopping the ichthy from poaching my entire supply of eggs, the drakeling slipped away. Having no luck finding an oviraptor, I returned to one of the spots where I had found Deinonychus eggs previously and found 3 nests now waiting for my arrival, with 2 of them having eggs, one a very nice level 145 and the other a level 50. Still unable to find an oviraptor, I shifted focus back to my unfinished mission, bee taming. For that, I needed citronal to make bug repellent, which meant raiding some old ruins rumored to have crops growing wild within them. The first ruins I found were lush, bursting with long grass swaying between the cracked stone structures. I continued my search and found both carrots and savaroot, but still no citronal. Determined, I took to the skies again, flying towards another rumored crop site. Along the way, I got wonderfully sidetracked by a Deinonychus nest. Soon after, I found another nest near a purple drop and another 2 nests, each with a level 140 egg in them. Before long, I reached the ruins and found what definitely looked like citronal plants, but they were not.
These are definitely citronal plants. Look at this. That is a citronal. It's got a frickin' lemon on it. Carrots! Carrots from your lemons! There's a frickin' lemon on it. I can see the lemon. Look at the lemon. That's a lemon. Carrots!
So with no lemons to my name, I headed home, but not before stopping to grab even more eggs until poor Periwinkle could barely stay airborne under the weight. When I finally did make it back, I dumped the entire collection into storage. Still needing citronal though, I said screw it and crafted a crop plot, planting some citronal seeds I'd gotten out of a drop. With a water tap set up and a little pooped actus fertilizer, my tiny garden was sprouting to life. To finish off the day, I built myself a cooking pot with a plan to test out a theory. Would cactus broth work as a substitute for bug repellent to mask my presence from the bees? So I flew up into the cliffs to gather some quick cactus sap, and with my parasaur's help, I collected all the berries I would need for making the concoction. Soon enough, I had a batch of fresh cactus broth bubbling in the pot. With it in hand, I went back to where I spotted the bees earlier, slurped down the broth, and approached, only to find it did absolutely nothing. The bees were still very aware of my presence. To make matters worse, the queen bee was so disgusted by my latest attempt that she straight up flew out over the ocean to escape me. Still not ready to give up, I scanned the area for another bee when I instead spotted an alpha carno that I knew was packed full of experience just waiting to be claimed. What was meant to be a quick distraction turned into a full day event as I perched on a rock and slowly pecked away at it from safety. When it finally fell, the experience was glorious.
Stop thinking you're gonna figure out a way. Yeah, there he goes. All right, what do we get? What do we get for it? 6 levels, I'll take them.
Boosted me high enough to unlock the Argentavis saddle. Flush with victory, I got to work harvesting carcasses for hide until I had enough to craft the saddle. Then to end the day, I treated myself to an upgrade, crafting my first pieces of flak armor to replace the rags I've been wearing, as well as a shovel, which I would quickly use to till the soil around my growing citronal crop, speeding up its growth. With my citronal crop still growing, it was time to get back to doing what I do best, taming everything that breathes. I spotted a level 130 kangaroo right outside my base, but before committing, I went scouting for a higher level. It didn't take long before I found a 145 and wasted no time dropping it straight into my base. Knocking it out though proved trickier than expected. Midway through, it escaped the pen, forcing me to chase it across the hills like an uncoordinated predator.
I was like, he will surely get over this. Oh, come on, how did I not get him? Oh, come on! How does that not a grab?
After a frustrating scramble, I finally caught and dropped it back in, this time blocking off the escape rocks with my tames. Once it was secure, I got it knocked out and fed it the mushrooms I'd been hoarding. While it tamed, I gathered wood and crafted stone pieces for a drop trap, plus a few extra wooden structures I needed to complete a skill task. Earning me 3 extra points, I immediately invested into bonded taming, making future tames even stronger. As I set out to look for a beaver to tame, a nearby purple ring drop caught my attention first. It contained mostly building pieces, but did include some behemoth gates, which might come in handy later. Back on the hunt for some good beaver, I returned to the lake and looted a dam to lure them all out, but it didn't exactly go as smooth as I had hoped.
Watch this. What we're gonna do is we're gonna loot this beaver dam, and when we loot this beaver dam, it's gonna draw all the beavers to us. Okay, well, you gotta be able to ride your bird, dude. Oh gosh. Oh gosh, this is terrible. Ah! Get out of here! Oh my gosh, how quickly you forget the might of the beavers!
When I finally escaped them, I took a peek only to find they were all low levels, so I was forced to take them all out. After searching around, I found a level 140, but then spotted an even better level 145 close by.
145! Sometimes it gets better if you keep on looking.
I carried it all the way home where I found the kangaroo had finished taming. With the roo relaxing, I loaded the beaver full of trank arrows and watched until it finally slumped over asleep. After a quick berry run to gather the narcos for keeping it under, I set out gathering fur and hide I'll need for crafting the Procoptodon saddle. Before long, my hide and fur needs were fulfilled with one lucky find, an ovis wandering nearby, which turned into an instant jackpot of hide and wool. A second one appeared soon after, so I brought it back home for another round of harvesting, filling my bins with enough materials to last me for some time. With the beaver still asleep, I gave it a round of narcoberries before moving on to more pressing business, a proper metal run. I took Jalapeno out with Grayskull, clearing rich veins along the cliffs. Then, one load at a time, I transferred everything into the forge, and after a quick run to gather wood, the forge roared to life as the mountain's bounty melted into shiny bars. Near base, another purple drop touched down, so I of course went to grab it, and for a moment I thought it was an absolute jackpot.
Oh my gosh, I thought that was a Procoptodon saddle at first. I was like, dude, you have to actually be kidding me. That's insane.
Next, I crafted another Deinonychus saddle so I could move the whole pack around easier, and finally took a moment to name them. My strongest became Firecracker. The others I named Neptune, the Bull, and Turkey Raptor, and I didn't do naming cards for these as they were meant to be nothing more than an egg farm. Still waiting for my citronal crop to be fully grown, I went after another drop, this one being green, but more importantly, nearby I spotted yet another ovis, this one with a baby. Naturally, I claimed it, already dreaming of a hide farm, but then disaster. For some reason, I couldn't access the baby's inventory. I'd nearly made a very bad mistake while trying to figure it out.
Why can't I access its inventory? What is going on? Why can't I access this thing's inventory? I don't understand. Oh crap, the beaver's about to wake up. Oh my gosh.
Still hopeful I could keep the baby, I quickly loaded the trough with berries anyway, hoping it might survive long enough to start feeding from it. And now intrigued by the potential of a hide farm, I returned to the same spot where I found yet another parent ovis and another baby. I took out the parent, but as I did, the baby back at base had starved to death. The second one though, I could at least access its inventory. Before long, my citronal crop had finally matured and had enough fruit for me to craft my first bug repellent, the key to finally conquering the bees. But before I could celebrate, I noticed something was terribly wrong.
Where is my beaver? My beaver has disappeared. I just sacrificed an almost fully tamed beaver for an ovis that was almost on the trough anyways. I logged out because the ovis was again bugged, so I logged out to fix it. And when I log back in, my beaver is gone. And to make matters worse, that ovis was actually almost on the trough anyways. It was at 9.1%.
Trying to shake it off, I turned my focus elsewhere. I had plenty of metal smelted and used it to craft my long-awaited Procoptodon saddle. With it saddled up, I set out to gather berries, only to stumble across another ovis with a baby. I took out the parent and scooped the lamb into the ruse pouch, hopping back home with my new fuzzy cargo. At base, I fed the baby ovis and officially christened my trusty kangaroo, Ruru. And since I needed a replacement beaver, I returned to the lake and first looted one of the dams for its best resources. Don't worry though, I did return to dump all of the wood. Thankfully, the level 140 beaver was still wandering where I first saw it. I took it home, dropped it in my trap, and loaded it with arrows until it drifted off to sleep. While waiting on its torpor, I crafted another batch of bug repellent and spent the downtime farming more sheep and searching for an oviraptor I could tame for egg collection. Before night fell, I crafted some scissors, mixed up some red dye, and gave myself a fresh haircut.
Looking good now, folks. As always, got the nice red mohawk.
The next day, I started by feeding the beaver its first batch of narcos, and then grabbed my ghillie suit, rare flowers, and bug repellent. Today was finally bee taming day, and this time, I was prepared. I tracked down one of the bees quickly enough, and the tame went about as smoothly as it could. Just like that, I had my first hive. While searching for the one who set sails across the sea, I stumbled onto something that I simply couldn't pass up. A level 150 Spino. So I rushed home, but on the way, stopped to grab another purple drop that was filled with salt, which was actually a clutch find.
That's actually great, because now I can get mutton. Now I can just get mutton and then use that to preserve it. And I don't have to worry about getting more, or I don't have to worry about waiting to get it.
Once home, I quickly set up my new hive, grabbed all the trap materials I need for the Spino, and double-checked my gear. I almost left without repairing my crossbow, but thankfully remembered, even packing some extra materials in case it broke mid-fight. Ready to tame the Spino, I headed out looking for lamb to feed it, and in a lucky turn while stopping at a red drop I couldn't open yet, I spotted one off in the distance. Fully stocked and ready, it was time to tame the Spino. Setting up the trap though didn't go perfectly, as just after I laid down a bear trap, a wandering Phiomia came sprinting in.
Oh, you stupid pig! Oh, you suck! That was meant for the dang Spino, you jerk!
But persistence paid off. After a few frustrating minutes watching the Spino completely ignore me, I finally lured it into a cliff and locked it in with the gates. Once it was loaded with trank arrows, I crafted 2 sleeping bags as I waited for it to fall asleep, loaded all of my gear into Grayskull, and once the Spino collapsed, I threw it the raw mutton and added the salt to keep it preserved. With that done, I teleported back home just in time to find my beaver's torpor nearly drained, saving it from waking up and undoing all of the progress. When I returned to the Spino and checked its stats, it unfortunately had nothing special. A little disappointing, but still a beast worth having. With it taming, I returned to base to the site of my beaver finally tamed. I immediately crafted a saddle and took the new lumberjack for a test drive, gathering heaps of wood in no time. The haul went straight into the smithy as I started prepping for something big, my first tree platform. To get there, I'd also need stone, so it was back out with Summer Sky to gather what I needed. Before long, I was crafting that first tree platform, and it was back out with the beaver for more wood, followed by some fiber with my sickle, rounding up everything needed to make a second tree platform. And with the work complete, I named our beaver Slippery. With both crafted and ready, I set off towards the redwoods, eager to find the perfect spot for my dream treehouse base. Unfortunately, Mother Nature had other plans. A thick storm rolled in, turning the forest canopy into a dark, foggy maze. I pushed through, exploring what I could through the rain and gloom, marking a few potential trees along the way. The first spot was high above everything, with an amazing view over the majority of the map. The second spot was high as well, with a view that covered a large portion of the redwoods. And the final spot was tucked further down into the redwoods in a beautiful spot overlooking a peaceful peaceful lake. After weighing my choices carefully, I settled on the third spot down by the lake and set up my 2 tree platforms on a couple of large redwood trees. Next, I went to fetch my Spino, eager to put it to work to see what kind of power it really had. At first glance, its melee looked promising, and on the way back, I gave it a proper test, setting it loose on the old rival Rex that had haunted my early days on the beach. It was closer than I would have liked, but the Spino dealt with it. When we returned to base, I had another visitor hanging around, waiting for me to arrive.
Can I help you? These dang moths, man, just dropping their babies off in my base. This ain't a freaking daycare.
After that quick chat with my new guest, it was time to organize the big move. Shuffling through my loot, I already had nearly everything I needed to craft cryopods. I took a quick trip for crystal and harvested a few dolphins for polymer, then got to work crafting. Once they were done, I cryoed the Spino first to check its stats. It came out with 41 points in melee. Not bad, but not great. From there, it was one tame after another until I was out of cryos. To finish off my cryopod construction, I needed just a bit more oil, so I checked a nearby lake, but found nothing but pearls shimmering beneath the surface. Not what I was looking for, but worth collecting anyways. At the next lake, my luck churned. Scattered across the bottom were several oil nodes, and I wasted no time bringing out Jalapeno the Yankee to farm them all. A quick fiber run later, I crafted the remaining cryopods, finally completing my collection. I used them to cry up all my remaining tames except Grayskull. Then came the tedious part, packing everything I had at base into Grayskull's saddle. Once I had all my belongings packed up, I used the variant gun mod to quickly pick up my spiked walls. I mostly use this mod for cycling through skin variants on structures, but it's also great for quickly picking up building pieces. With that done, I say goodbye to my little slice of sand. My time here had some setbacks, but nonetheless, it served its purpose to getting me started on my journey. On my flight towards my new life in the redwoods, I spotted a purple drop, but guarding it was an alpha Carno. I couldn't resist the chance at more experience and levels, but this one wouldn't go as easily. Between struggling to get the Carno to chase me and other predators wanting to get involved, it took much longer than I would have liked to even get it trapped, but eventually I got it on the side of a cliff and locked it in with gates, making it easy to deal with.
There we go. Finally, I can cheese you!
After defeating the trapped Alpha Carno, I looted its body and found some decent gear, but the real reward came from the experience. Grayskull leveled up massively, and I gained a couple levels myself. Not long after, I spotted a red drop that turned out to have something potentially useful inside, a flamethrower.
Flamethrower. Ooh, that's actually kind of big. That's actually kind of nice. That's actually pretty nice because I think that's like the best way to do the Elder Claw is to flamethrower it.
Moving on, I finally arrived at my new treehouse location nestled by the water and spent the day unloading everything into storage. Piece by piece, it took the majority of the day, but eventually everything was unloaded and my tames were free from their cryos to stretch their legs and wings. To make things a bit more organized, I crafted a visual storage drop box, a perfect way to keep my materials flowing between crafting stations. A quick stone run with Summer Sky followed, and I wrapped up the day by crafting more forges to get my metal production up and running in the new base. Next, I crafted a rustic table from the Klinger rustic building mod and placed my mortar and pestles neatly on top. With that done, I pulled the raw metal from my original forge and used the distro box to evenly distribute it across the rest. Efficiency was the name of the game now. Then came the grind, a long hot day of metal gathering while fending off packs of raptors that seemed to have a personal vendetta against me.
I'm just gonna let him gather metal while he kills the raptor. There you go, good job, brother.
By the time I returned home, 9,000 raw metal filled the drop box, enough to keep my forges roaring for the foreseeable future. Before heading back out for wood, I decided to mate my 2 ovis, setting in motion the beginnings of a proper hide and wool farm. Then it was straight into the forest for a long wood run, hauling back loads of it for the fires. Once everything was dropped off and the forges were cooking, I turned my attention to something more exciting, hatching my best Deinonychus eggs. I lit the torches and waited, eager to raise a new generation of killers. And this is when I was informed that apparently, with the new version of Valguero, the Deinonychus eggs are no longer used for extraordinary kibble, so my dream of a kibble farm was now a thing of the past.
Yeah. It's annoying that they changed it to where these things no longer make the teal kibble, because I've literally tamed or got a bunch of eggs with the intent of making an egg farm and then found out they don't make the best kibble.
I started the next day by checking over my existing Deinonychus and realized one of them actually had 30 points in melee. Not bad at all, especially since they don't get a post-tame level boost. When the eggs hatched, I was greeted by a set of twins and all 4 hatchlings turned out to be females. Unfortunately, none of them had standout stats, so I stored them away and turned my attention to raising the baby ovis from yesterday's pairing. Then across the pond from my treehouse, I spotted a Diplo with babies wandering the shore. I took down the parent and claimed the babies, keeping them safe for a future card char taming sacrifice if I ever get bold enough to go after the beast I saw earlier. Back in the tree, I got back into rhythm, crafting spark powder to then combine with some charcoal for making gunpowder, which I then combined with metal to make some simple rifle ammo. I also ran a water pipe down into the lake, installing a tap next to my cooking pot. Finally, I could hydrate and cook in one place. With everything flowing smoothly at base, I saddled up for a Spino hunt, scouring the waterways and looting a few disappointing yellow drops along the way. And just when I thought I struck gold spotting a Spino, it turned out to be only a level 75. Then I spotted something else that momentarily took my attention, a baby Quetz flying with its mother.
Oh, look at the little Quetz baby. Oh, it's a baby. It's a big baby, though. It's a big old baby. That's a baby big as my origin. That's a big baby right there. God dang you, big boy.
Back to the Spino, I pulled out my rifle and began firing at it from the water's edge, as it was apparently a little shy about coming out of the water, until eventually the Spino dropped, and the kill gave me the level I needed to unlock the Spino saddle for the one I had sitting at home. From there, I continued my Spino search for the large majority of the day, finding absolutely nothing. So I returned to base and crafted that saddle for my Spino instead, throwing it across my beast back before leveling it up and packing it into a cryopod. With the Spino in tow, I set my sights on something new, the Aberration Zone. The plan was to scout for aberrant Spinos worth taming to begin my potential boss army. I made it down into the glowing depths easily enough until I realized I forgot to bring water. So there I was, reduced to eating mushrooms to stay hydrated. It didn't take long before I spotted what I was looking for though, 2 aberrant Spinos patrolling the rivers below. One of them was a level 130, exactly what I was hoping for.
130, we take that.
So I waded through the waters, clearing out everything that wasn't worth keeping alive. If it moved and wasn't the Spino I wanted, it died. When I finally reached level 130, I realized I made a rookie mistake. I forgot my narcotics.
Oh, I did not bring any narcotics with me. What a dummy. Means I'm gonna have to pick berries to keep a Spino down.
Things only got worse when I nearly lost my own Spino trying to set up the trap.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna end up having to kill this thing. I'm gonna have to kill it. I have to kill it. Oh my gosh, my Spino's gonna die. I'm trapped on my own trap. We gotta run. I have no idea where I'm going. I'm just running for my life.
Once I had things under control, I spent some time killing whatever I could find so I could force feed my Spino to heal it up. It took a while, but eventually I found the 130 again and got it trapped without issue.
Stay trapped. Yeah. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. Got it.
As I was knocking it out though, I spotted something through the trees. Another Spino, a level 140.
We're still gonna knock this one out.
Before long, the level 130 went down clean, and not wasting any time, I trapped the 140 right after. Once the level 140 went down, the real challenge began, keeping both beasts knocked out with nothing but my hands to pick berries. So there I was picking berries like a lunatic, desperately gathering anything I could to keep their torpor up. I fed them what little I had, but it was clear I needed another plan. I decided to make a sprint for the surface to grab narcotics from base, but on the way out I stumbled across an ovis that would make the perfect meal for the pair of Spinos. So I hauled tail back to the Spinos and fed the ovis to both, hoping the higher quality meat would speed things up. The rest of the day was a blur of running back and forth, force feeding berries to the first one just to keep it under. Eventually it tamed, but the excitement was short-lived. Its stats were nothing to celebrate. Still, I wasn't giving up yet. I focused everything on the second one, carefully managing its torpor until at last it stood up too. And then disappointment struck again. Despite having 31 points in health pre-tame, it only came out with 39 points post-tame. Not long into the next morning, I spotted a level 135 female Spino patrolling a large lake. Normally, that would have me setting up a trap immediately, but after some consideration, I had changed my mind about using them for the boss fight. You see, this boss arena is on the smaller side, has a lot of objects that can get in the way, and you need to stay mobile to avoid the boss's attacks. Not exactly the ideal situation to bring an army of hulking Spinosaurus. So I started making my way out of the Aberration Zone. On the way, I stumbled upon a purple drop with a slightly better chest piece tucked inside. It took what felt like forever, but I finally found the way out and could see the sun once again. Once home, I released the Spinos onto the other tree platform, giving them room to stretch their legs while I unloaded all of the loot I'd picked up from the depths. But my thoughts were already elsewhere. I grabbed my fur armor and a few bowls of fry curry, because my next target was far colder and far deadlier. I was going after a wyvern egg. On the way to the trench, I snagged a red drop with a sniper rifle inside, and as the night came to an end, I arrived at the wyvern trench, ready to steal myself a powerful egg. Right away, I spotted 2 wyvern eggs nestled deep within the trench, and both were heavily guarded by furious parents circling above. above. I took aim with my long neck rifle and fired a round into one of the wyverns, baiting it straight into a herd of bears and mammoths nearby. As chaos broke loose, I dove in and snatched the first egg I could reach. It was only level 60, but it would do the trick, allowing me to pull the wyverns far away from their nest. With their attention elsewhere, I swooped back in, going after a third egg on the other side of the trench. This one was a beauty, a high level egg, but it wouldn't come without a price.
150, baby! We take that. We take it, we take it, we take it, and we go. Periwinkle. Oh, God, Periwinkle! Oh, you're so dead, Periwinkle. Oh, you're so dead, Periwinkle. You're so dead. Oh, yeah, Periwinkle's dead. Well, I didn't know I could still spin, even when I was... Oh, we're out of here. We're out of here. Let's go, Periwinkle. Come on, Periwinkle. We can do this. Periwinkle, you gotta fly, brother. You gotta fly like your little wings are just... That's all back up. Just get out of here. Oh, we survived. I didn't know we could still spin while we were like that, you know, like being frozen. I figured I couldn't spin.
Thankfully, we survived, and as we departed with the high-level egg, I spotted something equally appealing, a max-level Giga, a tame for another day. Back at base, the hide farm had already paid off. 2 more baby ovis were born, though both turned out male, but I decided to raise them anyway. Next, I set up additional torches beside my old incubation ring, but the wyvern egg stayed too cold, so I crafted a few more until finally, with the warm glow surrounding it, the egg began to incubate. Mistakenly thinking I needed to do a meat run, I started with taking out a Carno, who would end up completing a skill task. That prompted me to check my other tasks, where I would notice I was nearly done with a berry harvesting task, with the next one being a meat harvesting task.
I'm so close to getting that one done that I should get it done, because then I gotta harvest raw meat.
So I quickly harvested the berries I needed and set out to begin gathering the meat. As I did, the task finished, rewarding me with more points, which I would put towards finishing the bonded taming skill. With enough meat gathered, I dumped it into the trough back on the platform and began crafting 8 more crop plots, with my next goal being to expand my garden. After some time, the long-awaited moment arrived. The wyvern hatched. Its scales shimmered faintly in the torchlight. I quickly began feeding it meat, proud of my little frost-spitting hatchling, and it was at this point that my chat reminded me wyverns don't eat meat while raising.
Oh, wait. Oh, you're right. You're right. They only drink milk. I don't know why I didn't think of that. What was I thinking? Why was I thinking they could have meat?
So I shifted my focus back to the garden, heading off to the nearby mountains to do a quick crystal run. Once back at base, I used the crystal to begin crafting the greenhouse pieces from the Clinger's rustic structure mod, and started assembling a small greenhouse at the back of the platform. Of course, I ran out of crystal halfway through, so I made another quick run before finishing the structure. When the last piece was in place, my crops were receiving the greenhouse effect, just not the full 300%. The massive redwood canopy overhead was blocking too much sunlight. Regardless, I tilled the soil of each plot with my shovel, then urged my Spinos to relieve themselves. Not for directly fertilizing the garden, no, these droppings would be used for taming a dung beetle. So with my pockets smelling like manure, I set out looking for a cave to go dung beetle taming. I arrived at the mount where the cave entrance lies somewhere tucked along the side, but struggled all through the night trying to find the hole. Look, it happens to the best of us. After what felt like hours of flying in circles, I finally found the cave entrance.
There it is. Oh my gosh, we found it. Holy crap, we finally found the dang hole.
This cave is known as the Lava Cave. It holds the artifact of the crag and is located roughly right here on your map. Now the cool thing about this cave is you can actually fly right in on your flyer, and it has several loot crates that respawn very quickly. And while I was actually coming here for a dung beetle, I figured I might as well get the artifact and some loot as well. I flew right past everything straight to the artifact room, but almost immediately my Argentavis was getting mauled by a whole colony of bats. Regrouping at the entrance, I made my way back in, slowly clearing out the tunnels leading to the main room, searching for dung beetles among the mobs of creepy crawlers and venomous titanoboas. When the swarms got too thick, I took a different approach, airlifting enemies one by one and dropping them straight into the lava below. With those mobs dealt with, I began attempting to pick off the bats one by one. Almost immediately, one of them gave me a nasty case of rabies, and since I wasn't smart enough to have antidotes on hand, I would have to tough it out with my 500 health. But before the rabies had even worn off, I decided to push my luck and caught another case. Knowing I wasn't going to survive, I went into an absolute panic, completely ignoring I had the hide on me to craft a sleeping bag until the last seconds.
Oh my gosh, I could have crafted a sleeping bag, couldn't I have? I just need fiber. I just literally need... Oh no! Not the bird!
I scrambled to harvest enough fiber to craft one, but it was simply too late. Thankfully, I had another sleeping bag nearby from when I tamed the Spino earlier, so I respawned there and started the naked and afraid run back to my body. I was nearly there when I had to go and speak my own death into existence.
So far, so good, but like I said, we're just one wrong turn away from this going downhill real quick. We take one turn around a mountain and there's something bad, and this gets real sketchy. Like that raptor right there. Yep, I'm dead. I'm dead. I'm dead. I'm dead.
So out of options, I respawned back at base just in time for something far more important, my wyvern's first imprint. Determined not to give up, I set out on Ruru, bounding across the land and swimming through deep waters to get back to my body. The journey was tense, but after a long haul, I finally made it. This time, I wasn't taking any chances. I crafted another sleeping bag just in case things went south again. And with everything respawned inside the cave, I was looking at another long fight to get through. Instead, I got creative, baiting every creature I could off the cliffside into the pools of lava below. All that remained was the army of bats, who again proved to be more than my Argent could handle. I had no choice but to admit defeat and leave with my tail feathers tucked. Still needing a dung beetle, I headed straight for the wyvern trench, stopping on the way at a red drop which had some helpful Frya curry. Perfect timing considering I didn't make the trip back home to grab my fur armor. But when I made it to the trench, there were even more wyverns than before. There was simply no way I was making any attempt at a dung beetle deep within the trench. So I headed home, where I was greeted by a small victory, another female baby ovis to add to my hide farm. While here at base, I crafted 10 preserving bins I'll need for making jerky, lining them neatly at the back of the platform. Then it was back to the grind, this time chipping away at rocks for flint, which I would turn into spark powder. I split it up between the 10 bins along with cooked meat and oil, and just like that, my jerky business was taking shape. While the meat dried, I turned my attention back to beetle taming. Of course, this time around, my Spinos were all being a bit shy, refusing to poop on command. So I grabbed spoiled meat instead to use for the tame, and set out once again towards the wyvern trench. Along the way, I spotted a beautiful Anki practically in my backyard.
65. Oh, it's mate boosted. There it is. There's a frickin' 150 Anki right here. Oh my gosh.
My plans for this boss fight had shifted to something unconventional, using my favorite dinosaur, the Ankylosaurus, and this one would be the perfect start to my boss army. But with no kibble yet for the perfect tame, I took a mental note of it and pushed on towards the trench. And every time my Pteranodon needed to stop for stamina, I made sure she pooped as well. Her droppings would be valuable currency for bartering with the beetles. Early into the next day, I arrived at the other side of the wyvern trench. This side was a bit more calm, and almost immediately I spotted a dung beetle being guarded by a pyromane, as well as another within the entrance to the fire cave, guarded by, well, everything. Unable to lure the creatures away, I swapped out Periwinkle for Grayskull, my trusty Argent, and swooped in to grab one of the beetles.
Spider-Man's definitely gonna hit me.
Yali!
Alright, we got a dung beetle. We're out of here, baby!
With the beetle in my claws, I flew to a nearby cliff where I would drop it off to complete the tame. I started off feeding it the small poop that Periwinkle so graciously provided, before realizing Grayskull's droppings were larger and would make this process much easier.
That's not small, that's got some girth to it, baby. Oh, you did it twice for me. That's gonna make things so much easier.
By early afternoon, the beetle was tamed and ready to get dirty. I named it Mike Rowe. Once home, I released Mike and set him to wander. He immediately began cleaning up the platform and turning those precious pellets into some proper fertilizer. With him working on that, I turned my attention to my bins and found my first batch of jerky was ready. But as I went to begin making kibble, I realized I was short on long grass. So it was off to the ruins again to gather more, as well as the other crops, which also provided the seeds I would need for continuing my own garden. On the way home, I made a quick pit stop at my old base to grab the remaining citronal and a seed that was left over. Then in the nearby hills, I found a few more Deinonychus eggs that would make good for the kibble needed to tame Ankies, as well as another ovis parent with a female baby following behind. But after taking out the parent, the baby was nowhere to be found, lost in the knee-high grass. Still on my journey home, I stopped at a red drop, but just as I did, I heard the familiar sound of a bee buzzing nearby. So I marked the bee's location on the map and cracked open the drop. Inside was a few canisters of propellant, which would come in handy if I ever choose to use the flamethrower from earlier. Not far from there, I spotted yet another bee and marked that one on the map too, before finally making it back to base and beginning to make the kibble I needed to tame the 150 Anki. Once I had enough kibble, I crafted up some pieces for a drop trap, set it up on the other tree platform, and returned to the Anki to scoop it up, bring it home, and drop it in. I loaded her up with arrows until she passed out, and when she did, I was pleasantly surprised by her pre-tame stats.
It has 29 points in health and 29 points in melee. This might literally just be the Anki that we need to use to breed all of our Ankies. We might have just done it. Here, take some kibble. You deserve it, girl.
While she tamed, I grabbed my ghillie suit and bug repellent, then set off to tame the two bees I had spotted earlier. I quickly got the first one tamed without much trouble, however the second one was more complicated. What looked like one bee was actually two, and the two of them were stuck in a rock. I would carefully free them, but as I did, they both just sort of flew away, ungrateful and uninterested in joining my team. I didn't give up though. I tracked one of them down, but it was proving to be difficult to tame. However, during my pursuit, I spotted another Anki, a 145 male.
145 male. Oh, baby. Holy crap. All right.
Then I had an unexpected but welcome surprise. A second 145 male Anki was in the same area.
A 145 male. Wait, hold on. Is there 2 145 males here? Oh my gosh, there's 2 145 males here. Oh my goodness.
Before taming them though, I needed to get the bee done before my bug spray wore off. I found it again down by the water, and despite a drakeling attacking just as I went to feed it the flower, the bee was tamed. Once that was done, I eagerly rushed home as the 150 Yankee had finished taming. I cryoed her up, and she came out with stats that already made her boss fight ready.
44 in health, 46 in melee. Okay, that's good. We're gonna try to do better, but that is good. That is a good fallback.
Still though, with kibble, Anki taming is quick, and there seems to be hundreds scattered around the map. There was no reason to settle just yet. I grabbed some more jerky from the bins, crafted up some more kibble, and returned to the 2 males to set up the drop trap. But after dropping one in, I noticed more Ankis nearby that would surely aggro me as I began taming. And just as I prepared to deal with them, a pack of Allosaurs rolled in to complicate things further. Rather than fuss with it all, I simply moved the trap to a safe spot and quickly knocked out the Anki. It had 27 points in melee pre-tame, which was decent enough to warrant feeding it the kibble and surrounding with spikes for safety. The second Anki would be a bit more challenging. I decided to try taming it without a trap, but disaster nearly struck when I accidentally backed into a stego, allowing the Anki to land a blow. That sent Grayskull into a fury, attacking the Anki and accidentally hitting the stego as well.
Brother, you didn't do that. You maroon. You hit the stego. Of all things to hit a stego.
I would get Grayskull under control, and after shaking off the stego, I was able to get back to the task at hand. And finally, the second Anki was down. It had 26 points in melee pre-tame, which again was decent, so again I fed it the kibble and spiked it in. While they tamed, I returned to base to make some much needed upgrades, starting with crafting a fabricator, which I would use to craft an electrical generator that I would set up just behind the Fabby to begin powering my base. The next target was to craft an industrial grill, but I was unfortunately 2 crystals short, so I headed out to gather more when I would be distracted by a yellow drop that contained some ammonite bile, a useful item I might need for one day raising an elderclaw. While out, I stopped to retrieve my 2 male Anki who had finished taming, and at first glance I thought the first one had some amazing stats.
37 health and 36 melee. Wait, that's not good. Never mind. That's not good. What am I getting excited for?
And the second Anki was a letdown as well. Not all can be beasts like the lady we had back home. Then on the way back home, I grabbed the crystal I had originally set out for, and once back, I crafted the grill, immediately putting it to use cooking a massive amount of meat. Next on the list was a pair of fridges to expand my kitchen, placing them where my original preserving bin once sat, and filling them up with all of its contents. With the base upgraded, I restocked my preserving bins to continue more jerky production, and headed out to hunt down more worthy Ankylosaurus. Before long, I spotted a herd of decent level ones who were locked in a fight with a pack of Allosaurus, but I decided not to get involved for now, and instead headed for another purple drop, hoping to find a good Anki saddle BP sooner rather than later. There was no saddle BP, but some other good loot instead.
Ooh! Ooh! You take the bug repellent. You take the bug repellent, and you take the pedestal, and you take the chainsaw blueprint for getting hide. That's the things you take out of life.
From there, I spent the rest of the day scouring the white chalk hills for Deinonychus eggs I needed to make more kibble, and checking every single Anki I spotted. Eventually, I found a level 140 locked in a fight with some raptors. I gave it a hand in taking them out, and eager to do some more taming, I scooped it up to take it home. While heading home, I heard the familiar sound of another bee buzzing about. So of course, I marked it on my map, and this time wanted to make it yellow. I just first had to figure out how primary colors work.
We should make the bee ones. I thought yellow and blue made green. Or I thought blue and green made yellow. Green and red make orange. What? Or no, yellow and red make orange. Green and red make yellow. Idiot. I'm in like 5th grade. Not even 5th grade. Below that. Younger than that.
Nobody saw that. Embarrassed, I pressed on when I would have to land for a stamina break, and it was then that I spotted something else worth coming back for.
Ooh, Mega Raptor right there. What level are you? 145 Mega Raptor! Oh, baby. Hold on.
Once I got home, I reset the drop trap for my latest Anki and got it knocked out without any trouble. With it down, I got to work cooking it up a nice healthy breakfast, and once the kibble was cooked, I fed the Anki to begin the tame. While at base, I noticed the wyvern had finished raising. Unfortunately, I messed up the imprints and could only manage 80% imprinting. But regardless, I took it out for a test run, tearing through the local wildlife. After the quick test, I named her Elsa. Still needing to tame more Ankis, I crafted even more kibble, and once it was done, I collected what fertilizer my dung beetle had produced to get my crops planted. All that was left was to install a water tank nearby, and the crops were growing nicely, minus the citronal as the one seed I had collected had spoiled. And by the time I was done, my newest Anki had tamed, but unfortunately, once again, it didn't come out with any good stats. So the day began with a return to the 145 Anki that I'd spotted days ago, still alive despite the nearby aloes. I dropped it in a trap and proceeded to load it with arrows. To ensure its safety, I I placed spike walls around the trap, but unfortunately after some calculations, I realized the pre-tamed stats were bad. So instead of wasting kibble, I made the decision to sacrifice it. My search continued, and so did my need to grab every Deinonychus egg and drop I found. Before long, I spotted another high-level candidate, so I quickly scooped it up and tried dropping into a trap with my wyvern, which proved to be difficult. So instead, I simply lured the Anky in on foot, ready to tank its tail swing in order to get it trapped. What I wasn't ready for was the Anky swatting me straight over the cliffside. Determined, I got Elsa to land below and made my way back up the Anky to quickly load it with arrows. Unfortunately though, this one also had bad pre-tamed stats and wasn't worth taming. So the search continued throughout the day, with the main highlight being a 140 Deinonychus egg I would grab in hopes of having a good health roll. And after searching all day for more good Ankys, I finally spotted and scooped another 140, taking her back home to tame while hatching the egg. Once home, I did exactly that, and this Anky had actually decent pre-tame health and melee. 29 points in melee. It's another one of those females that just has double high stats. Okay, well, we're taming this. We're taming this. We're taming that one right there. So with her taming, I turned my attention to hatching the 140 Deinonychus egg. As it began hatching, I did a quick meat run just to have enough to start raising the soon-to-hatch baby. And as I returned to watch it crack out of its shell, it became a race to see what would happen first, the egg hatching or the Anky taming.
It's gonna be like really close. This is gonna finish hatching right before the Anky tames, or vice versa. Here comes the hatch. Oh my gosh, literally the exact same time. That's so funny.
The baby Deinonychus came out with 25 points in health, which is not amazing, but I decided to go ahead and start raising it alongside the female babies I had stored away, planning to once again use them as a kibble farm, just not for the extraordinary kibble I had originally planned for. Unfortunately, when I cryoed the Anky to look at its stats, they were once again underwhelming, and so my hunt would have to continue. But first, I need to do a more expansive meat run to keep my growing Deinonychus fed. While out, I spotted something mystical, my first Elder Claw.
Oh, there's an Elder Claw! Oh, there's an Elder Claw right here! Oh my gosh. Oh, it's level 40. You bum. You bum. What a terrible level.
Despite it being such a low level, I decided to keep the seed anyways. Just in case I never see another, I do want to grow at least one baby Elder Claw. Once back on the platform, I dumped all the raw meat I had gathered into the feeding trough. Then it was back out, this time on Ruru, to gather another large batch of narco berries. I would use those to get another helping of narcotics brewing, and while they did, I whipped up another batch of kibble for taming more Ankys. With the kibble in hand, I turned what narcotics had finished into another bundle of trank arrows I would need for dropping the walking tanks. Then, before departing to resume my hunt, I cryoed up the male Deinonychus. This one would be an important mount, and I wanted to make sure I didn't miss any imprints. As I continued my search, I of course hit any drop I could find in hopes of finding an Anky saddle BP, and in this red one, I found a nice upgrade to my flak helmet. Then as the day came to a close, I spotted another high-level Anky for potentially taming, so I quickly built a trap, switched to my Argent for easier dropping, and safely placed the Anky down inside the trap. With the trap ready, I got to work and quickly knocked out the Anky. Pre-tame, it showed 28 points in health, which wasn't too bad, so I decided to go through with it. So after feeding it the kibble, I surrounded it with spiked walls to keep it protected from any unwanted guests. While waiting for it to tame, I kept myself busy raiding more Deinonychus nests, grabbing whatever eggs I could find to keep my kibble supply strong. Eventually, the Anky finished taming, but unfortunately, it came out with just 39 points in health, far from the stat line I was hoping for. Still, I pressed on searching, while also stealing more eggs along the cliffs, which didn't sit well with one of the feather-covered parents.
And see if we get a... Oh! Oh gosh. That guy came actually out of nowhere.
The rest of the day was just spent scouring the hillsides for another promising Anky, but by nightfall, I had zero luck finding any high levels. The search continued into the next morning when I would finally spot another high-level Anky. Getting into the trap, though, proved to be a challenge.
I mean, what sense does this make? Like, if we're just being honest with each other, what sense does that make, that is the way this game works?
Eventually, I pulled up some of the walls and just lured it in on foot, trapping it safely inside. Once secured, I knocked it out and saw 30 points in health pre-tame, a solid number worth the effort. While it slept, I took a moment to heal Elsa by force-feeding her meat. Then, nearby, I came across another 145 Anky locked in a battle with an Allosaurus. By the time the Allo went down, the Anky was looking pretty rough. Taming it would have to wait. In my time away watching the Anky and Allo fight, though, the female Anky had finished taming, but once again, she ended up with bad stats. So I returned to the male and managed to knock it out despite its already low health. It had 27 points in health pre-tame, and before I could make a decision on it, I was forced to retreat by an unexpected guest. So I left it behind for now and went searching the redwoods near my base instead. And once again, the redwoods rewarded me. After some searching, I found another 145 Anky. I airlifted it back to base and dropped it off below my platforms to let it calm down before starting the tame. As it relaxed, I sorted through the loot and eggs I'd gathered throughout the last few days. Before going down to fetch the Anky, I began hatching another 140 Deinonychus egg I'd gotten in my latest run. And once it was going, I dropped the Yankee into the trap and loaded up with arrows until it dropped. Sadly, it once again had bad stats, and so I put it down and moved on. A small victory would come though when the baby Deinonychus hatched with 30 points in health, which was better than the baby I was currently raising, so I swapped them out. From there, I spent most of the day close to home, scouting the nearby redwoods for more Yankee spawns while the Deinonychus grew. During the search, I took out several not so friendly creatures, and in doing so, apparently snagged 2 Ascendant maps.
Oh! What are these? Where did those come from? I just had 2 treasure maps, 2 Ascendant treasure maps just sitting pretty in my inventory. Alright, well, we have to go after those then, right?
Then, after searching for some time, I spotted another herd of Yankees, one of them a 145 male. I scooped him up, flew him home, and got him knocked out. Pre-tame, he showed 32 points in melee, making him one of the best I'd seen yet. I quickly crafted the kibble and started the tame. While the Yankee settled in and began eating, I returned to the redwoods to continue searching for more, but came across a 130 Elderclaw instead.
Oh wait, that's the Elderclaw right there. There's an Elderclaw. Literally right in front of us. 130? Do we take that? I think we take it just to have it.
I went head to head with it using Elsa and found that grass types are in fact weak to ice types. With it dead, I claimed the 130 seed for myself. After a long day of hunting, I returned home to find that my Yankee had finished taming, but sadly, it didn't roll any amazing stats. So I decided to give up on taming and started breeding my 44 health and 46 melee female anyway, hoping to eventually get a perfect male baby. Before long, she dropped her first egg, but it was too hot to incubate. I quickly crafted a single air conditioner, and thankfully, that was enough to get the process going. While the egg incubated, I took Ruru out for a berry run, both to stock up the trough and to grab citronal seeds, which meant by the time I got back, I was able to get my final crop growing. Then, just as the egg was about to hatch, someone in my live stream chat called for twins, and sure enough, it was twins.
Oh, what? Mike, you son of a gun! What in the world? Holy crap. And it looks like they might even have a mutation? How did that happen, bro? Or females. No, a male and a female. Oh my gosh, is this a perfect combo? Right off the rip?
Unfortunately, neither inherited the melee stat I was after, but one was a female which could be used for more breeding, and the male did at least inherit the health stat from the perfect mom, so I began raising them both. Just as I got them going, the Deinonychus baby wanted its first imprint in the form of a Cuddle, and then I grabbed every treasure map I had and headed out for a little hunt. Unfortunately though, the first one was a bust. My bad luck would continue into the next day as a purple drop would pull the classic disappearing dad act on me.
Oh, what? Oh my gosh. Every single playthrough, a freaking purple drop just disappears in my face. I kid you not, it's every single one. I've never had a 100 days video where a purple drop doesn't just vanish in front of my eyes.
Next, I opened another chest, and again, there was nothing more than some okay junk. So I moved on to another purple drop, and well, you just can't make this stuff up.
Oh my gosh! Bro! You can't make it up, man. You can't make it up. This is ridiculous. Purple drops just freaking hate me. They see me coming and they just turn around and run away.
The third chest I opened finally gave something halfway decent, but more importantly, near it was an Alpha Rex. I thought about trying to take it out for the experience when I would notice another Alpha Rex nearby. This was definitely not a fight I was ready for, so I marked both their locations on my map to come back later when I was better prepared. Instead, I followed my final loot map and dug up another letdown, though a red drop I grabbed afterward finally gave me some solid gear to make the trip worthwhile. After that, I decided to change focus and headed back to the starter beach, determined to find an Oviraptor to help with the collecting Yankee eggs. I combed through their usual spawn areas, but found nothing. Out of options, I started clearing the beach of every creature in hopes of forcing one to spawn in. Wanting to give one time to spawn in, I shifted my focus to doing my first proper build of this playthrough. First though, I needed to craft some more visual storage pieces to hold all the mats I needed for the build. Once they were crafted, I set them up on the side of the platform and headed out to start my gathering, starting with over 9,000 crystal. Of course, it wouldn't come easy as I had to first clear out a Rex and some aloes before I could get to gathering crystal for the remainder of the day. The first half of the next day was spent doing the same thing, just chipping away at crystal with jalapeno until I finally had enough for the project. Once I had enough of that, I switched jalapeno to only gather flint, and the rest of the day was spent doing exactly that. By nightfall, I had more than enough. So next day, I reconfigured the Yankees gathering again, this time to only gather metal, and set out to crush every vein I could find until I had all I needed for the build. When I returned to base, I discovered a fresh Yankee egg waiting for me, so I tossed it out to hatch while unloading all the flint, metal, and crystal I'd stockpiled into storage, and took a quick detour down to some floating rocks below my platform to gather all the stone I needed as well. Unfortunately, when I returned, the hatchling was not what I was hoping for. It was a male and with bad stats. I had no choice but to take it out by the woodshed before moving on to my next resource run, with my goal being nearly 80,000 wood. I flew Slippery the beaver all around chopping at wood until I had a solid first load to drop off at base, and then it was back out for more gathering, and by the end of the night I brought back a second load. As the next morning began, the first 2 Ankies I'd been raising finished, so I swapped out the old male with the newer, stronger one, though I held off breeding the female since there was no chance of a perfect stat combo. From there, I was back out gathering wood when something else caught my eye, an even better Elderclaw.
Oh, wait, isn't ours a 140? No, ours is like a 130. Hold on. I gotta go get my wyvern.
I raced home for Elsa, and the two of us tore it down for its seed. Distraction over, I jumped back into the wood grind, and before long, I was unloading the third and final batch. The only thing left to do was to raid beaver dams for the small amount of paste I needed, and after hitting a few, I now had all the materials needed for my build. On my way back home though, I made a stop at the beach I had cleared days ago in hopes an oviraptor had spawned in, and sure enough, there was one swimming in the shallow waters.
Oh, that compy got me, dude. The compy got me, man. Wait. Oh, there's one in the freaking water. That's why we couldn't find it. It was swimming around. Ya bum.
So I swapped out to my Argent, swooped down, and scooped it up, ready to bring it home to put to work in the egg farm. Once home, I dropped it off on my second tree platform, tied it up with a bola, and quickly knocked it out. As I grabbed the eggs for taming, I unloaded the loot from the beaver dams into storage. Then I fed the oviraptor the low-level wyvern egg I'd grabbed days ago, along with some Deinonychus eggs. And just like that, it tamed instantly off the wyvern egg alone. With that done, I shifted my focus back to my build, crafting and placing down the Klinger rustic smithy I'll need for crafting the rustic building pieces. This thing was an absolute game changer, cranking out pieces at breakneck speeds that would save me a ton of time. When it came time to craft the greenhouse pieces, I almost couldn't believe how fast it was.
Oh my gosh! Just going crazy. Holy, what the heck is that? That was insane. Oh my gosh.
Then I was given another great suggestion, broth of enlightenment. I checked my fridges and found one I'd grabbed from an earlier drop. With the broth now filling my stomach, the crafting of building pieces became a fountain of experience points. By the time I had all the pieces I needed, I also had reached level 83. While I was doing this, my new oviraptor had secured another egg for my Yankees, and for its efforts, I named it Bean. I got the egg hatching right away, and while it did, I set up a new tree platform for my new base, as well as a storage box to hold all the pieces I need for building. All that was left before I could start my build was to watch my newest Enki hatch, and when it did, I was not disappointed.
It is a male. Come on, please have the stats. Please have the stats. Please have the stats. I know you don't, but I just want you to. 44 health. 46 melee! We got the male! We got our male with perfect stats! Yes! It's good enough for me!
Once the Aki was feeding off the trough, it was finally time to start working on my first real build of this playthrough. But first, I had to do a little builder's trick, damaging my tree platform to prevent me from accidentally picking it up. With that done, it was time to get started on the build. So there you have it, that is my first build of this playthrough, a sort of rustic themed treehouse. This would be my main structure for the playthrough where I live, do all my crafting, storage, pretty much everything outside of storing my dinos and breeding them. You can see the first floor has these 4 sections that are kicked out. One of these will be where I put most of my crafting stations, one will be for my visual storage bins for my materials, the other will be a sort of kitchen with my fridges, grill, and eventually cooker, and the last one will likely be extra storage for some vaults to store all of my gear and extra stuff. We've got an elevator shaft that takes us up to the second floor, which will mostly be an extremely oversized personal space. But if you had a tribe, this area would be where you all log out. And if we keep taking the elevator up to the third floor, this area will act as our greenhouse for our crops and other garden items like our bees. And this area should get 300% greenhouse effects even under the tree canopy. Overall, I'm really happy with the way this one turned out. It has a nice mixture of wood, stone, and greenhouse, and I feel like I was able to do some fun things like these half circle windows to give it some unique features. If you like the build, I did live stream it on my channel, so you can attempt to follow along with that, or if you have the template hammer tool from the Lost Colony DLC, I'm going to do my best to get a blueprint created of the build, and there will be a link in the description where you can get that blueprint to use on your art. During the build, my perfect male Anki had finished raising. Unfortunately though, I wasn't paying much attention while building and failed to imprint on it fully. Regardless, I swapped out the previous male breeder with the new perfect one and got it breeding with any female I had, because at the end of the day, the female stats don't really matter since there is a chance the baby could get all of its stats from its father. While they bred, I checked my fabricator to see what I needed for an industrial forge and found I was still short on oil, crystal, and polymer. So once the Yankee eggs were laid and secured by Bean, I cryoed up jalapeno and headed off to the mountaintops to get the crystal done first. The next day started with a return trip to the lake with my Yankee to gather more oil, and after that I made my way to the shores to harvest more beach dolphins for their organic polymer. The lake yielded little oil though, so I made a trip over to what is known as the oil cave, where I would find so much oil my American heart nearly exploded with joy.
Oh, right there, brother. Oh, that's some good oil. Oh, baby, let it pour down on me. That's some good stuff right there. Is that just a pool of oil right there? Oh, golly gee, I gotta get in there. Oh.
Okay, well, hey.
There we go, brother.
When I returned home, it was finally time to put all the gathering to use. I crafted the industrial forge and placed it inside the treehouse. It wouldn't fit in the kickout I had designated for my crafting stations, but still, it was up and running. From there, I spent the rest of the night crafting the remaining visual storage bins I would need for storing all of my materials going forward. I got all the bins set up tightly in one of the kickout rooms, and then it was time for the boring but very important task of setting up the distribution menu to make future material drop-offs a breeze. From there, I moved over all the remaining materials I had in their new storage bins, as well as setting up my generator next to the elevator and all my crafting stations in one of the other kickout rooms. Next, I moved over my kitchen equipment into one of the other rooms and got all of my perishables safely back inside the fridges to keep them fresh. And finally, I crafted 2 vaults that I would need for storing all my other loot and goodies. Growing bored of all the moving, I shifted gears for the moment and began crafting another batch of cryopods with the intent of hatching my first large batch of Anki eggs. First though, I had to get Jalapeno back out, who was once again ready to breed. Once she dropped her egg, I went to hatch it along with the others, only to realize my aircon was no longer powered.
Okay, come on. Oh, these aren't powered anymore. Duh. The egg hatching will have to happen over here.
So I quickly moved it along with one I'd gotten in a drop over to the new base and set up the eggs to begin incubating. With them going, I grabbed bug spray, flowers, and gilly for my next task, more bee taming. While gathering materials earlier, I had spotted one near my base, but when I returned to the spot, I found the mortal enemy of all bugs, a megatherium.
Yeah, I'm assuming it probably got beat on by that megatherium.
Still, I had some time till the eggs would hatch, so I continued searching the grounds of the redwoods in hopes of finding another. While I didn't find any bees, I stumbled upon something else, a natural hide factory just up the hill from me.
Oh my gosh, what is happening up here? There's a herd. There's herds of just everything. Oh my Lanta. Look at all them thick boys.
I would have to come back to that later, but for now, my eggs were ready to hatch. When they did, they unfortunately came out with 6 males and only 1 female. Not exactly a good start to growing a breed line. But on a much better note, 5 of the 7 babies came out with their father's perfect stats.
Or oh my gosh, look at that. We got 5 perfect babies.
Not wanting to waste any cryopods, I took out the bad babies, which apparently didn't sit too well with a nearby drakeling. Just as I began setting up the 5 good babies with food to begin raising, it swooped in to attack my base, sending my tames and one of the babies over the edge of the cliff to the forest below. I couldn't be bothered with getting all my tames for the moment, but the baby was worth saving, and once I had it secured, I got them all out again, and the process of raising them was underway. While they began raising, I needed to get back to prepping for the eventual boss fight, with today's goal being loot and honey. I gathered some better armor to go along with the gilly I had on me, as well as some antidotes for dealing with those pesky bats. First task would be to stop at one of the spots I had previously marked for bees, but when I did, the bee was nowhere to be found. Not discouraged, I moved on to a second location I had marked, but again, it was a bust. So I turned my attention to the lava cave that had turned us away once before. I began slowly making my way through the cave on my Argent to clear out the hordes of creatures, and once in the main room, I grabbed the yellow drop that was out of range of the bats. And to my surprise, the drop respawned almost instantly, so I grabbed it again. Then came time to deal with the bats, but this time I came prepared. I uncryoed Elsa, lured the bats in with a shot of my rifle, and when they got close, I unleashed a beam of frost breath straight to their face. With the room clear, I very carefully grabbed each drop, nervous I would fall to my death each time.
Oh gosh.
Oh, those are disgusting. Ugh.
And while here, I figured it only made sense to secure the artifact as well.
Boom. Got ourselves our first artifact, everybody. Look at us. And now we're riding our Argent in a very awkward way.
Still eager for more loot, I continued with supply drops outside of the cave, and the first red one I grabbed gave some nice firearms, but the next one had the real reward.
Oh, there it is, baby, a pump shotty. You love to see it. You love to see a pump shotty in a drop. That's what you want to see there. Bye-bye. It's not the best one, but I'll take it.
A little bit later, I scored an Anki saddle out of another drop, not the blueprint I'd hoped for, but an Anki saddle nonetheless. The hunt continued until it was time to return to base to imprint on the growing Ankis, and once that was done, I decided to take the ever-reliable Jalapeno out for another massive metal run, knowing I'll need plenty of metal for crafting saddles and weapons down the line. I dropped Jalapeno off at a safe spot and chased the raptor down. I chipped away at its health one shot at a time until finally one final bullet put it down. But I would be disappointed when it didn't score me even one level.
Oh, wow, it didn't even give me a level. It wasn't a high level one, but still.
So I returned to my original task of farming metal, only to then be distracted by an Alpha Carno, followed shortly by another Alpha Carno over the mountain. I couldn't resist the chance at some more experience and hopefully levels. I rushed back home and quickly set up a visual storage crane below my treehouse, allowing me to drop Jalapeno off beneath the crane, and then quickly pull all the metal into the crane, and then push it to the forge. With the metal secured and cooking, I mounted on Elsa and returned to face off with the Alpha Carnos. When the first one fell, it granted me a single level. Wanting more from the second one, I tried taking it down with my rifle while it was distracted with some Argents, but eventually I had to just settle for using Elsa to finish it off, which meant I wouldn't get any more levels. So I flew back to base just in time for another round of imprints on the baby Yankees. While home, I began setting up spiked walls at the top of a cliff behind my treehouse. This was all in preparation to move my tames to a safer location, as there was a large flat spot below that would make for a great home. So the next day started with crafting a few more spikes, followed by placing them around the top of the cliff. But still needing a few more to finish the job, I gathered more wood to craft additional spikes, and before long I had the whole top of the cliff blocked off, as well as the one pathway that comes up from one of the sides. So with that done, the next task was to move all of my tames over to their new home. It took some time, but was worth doing to ensure their safety going forward. While moving them over, I remembered the male Deinonychus with 30 points in health that I completely forgot I was even raising. He was alive and well, and so once I got him over to the new spot, I started breeding him with Firecracker, who had 26 points in stamina. Bean quickly secured the egg for me, and I retrieved it, excited for the potential of their offspring. I immediately began hatching the fresh Deinonychus egg alongside another batch of Anki eggs, and while they cooked, I collected the Ankis I currently had raising to move them over to the new base, as well as the beehives and their honey. Not wanting it to spoil, I quickly stored the honey in my fridges and began moving the hives to the second floor of my build, nearly dying in the process from the bee stings and my refusal to waste bug spray.
Yeah, well, no, we might be able to take it. Come on, hold out, brother. Yes, we made it.
While doing this, the newest eggs had hatched, so I quickly cryoed them up and rushed outside, as the Ankis I was already raising were ready for their final imprint. Unfortunately, due to my own arrow, I was only able to fully imprint on 2 of the Ankis, but on a positive note, I had another perfect female I could breed for eggs. Now with a moment to breathe, I sorted through my crowd babies to check their stats, only to find that just 3 of the Ankis had the perfect stat combo, so I had to kill off the rest, as well as the baby Deinonychus, who also did not inherit both stats.
What the heck? I just stabbed it through the ground, apparently. All right, well, good luck on life.
Still, I at least had one other new egg to hatch, and this one was guaranteed to have the perfect stats. While he began hatching, I crafted 2 troughs from the Klinger Rustic mod, because with these troughs, you can actually designate them to hold only meat or berries, and they just look cool. I then used Ruru to clear my base floor of bushes, using the berries to stock up the trough. Still waiting on the newest Anki egg to hatch, I crafted another fridge that I would designate only for my honey. And before long, the egg did hatch, but of course, it came out a male. Regardless, I started raising raising the 4 new perfect Ankies anyways. And with plenty of food for keeping the Ankies fed, I started gathering my ghillie armor, gear I would need for caving, and the rest of my bee taming essentials in case I should stumble on any, and crafted some grapples that would act as safety lines. With my gear in hand, it was back into the lava cave for some more loot, but the first drop I checked was a bust, offering absolutely nothing useful. Another drop would provide a nice upgrade to my rifle.
Okay, you take that. That's a little upgrade. You take that. The rest could care less about.
But the next few drops were nothing but letdowns. The final drop would come with a nice compound bow blueprint, which was a nice find, but probably not something I'll make great use of. So with another trip to the cave complete and still no Anki saddle BP to show for it, I shifted gears to another goal of mine for this playthrough, taming a Mega Raptor, crafting extra sets of flak armor and a stockpile of torches. Before starting the tame though, I needed to wait for another Anki imprint, so I made use of the time by grabbing any nearby supply drops. Unfortunately, the drops were underwhelming again, with only a few good saddles to highlight, but not really anything I was looking for. So I returned home to imprint on the Ankies, and once they were sorted, I gathered up materials in case I needed to repair my torches and collected the gear I'd crafted for the Mega Raptor taming. I headed straight back to where I had spotted the 145 days ago, and sure enough, it was still here patrolling the lakeside. So I quickly cleared out anything and everything that might try to interfere with the tame. Once everything was clear, I approached the Mega Raptor spike and started the challenge, and to my surprise, everything was actually going relatively smooth.
Ho ho! You thought you were quick. Boy, I have speed like you've never seen. Let me tell you, you don't understand it. My friend, you simply cannot comprehend the level of speed that I exist with.
That is, until it just sort of randomly ended. I searched around the area, but the Mega Raptor was nowhere to be seen, and worse, the ritual spike had disappeared as well, along with my hopes of taming the beast.
Sweet, yeah, that's it. It just literally is gone. That's crazy. Well, you hate to see it, but, you know, what are you gonna do? It's Ark. We're playing a game that we know doesn't work very well.
But the day was still young, and so I spent the rest of it searching for another Mega Raptor, while also grabbing any drop I could. I would eventually find one, but it was only a level 55, and so I killed it off instead. My search continued into the next morning, when I would find something much more magical instead, a unicorn.
It's like a freaking unicorn. There's a unicorn right here. Oh my gosh, a unicorn. Dude, I kind of have to tame this thing. It's a freaking unicorn. Yeah, it's a unicorn. I mean, you can't not tame it. It's a freaking unicorn.
Of course, when you see a unicorn, you have to tame it, and I was hoping this magical creature would somehow bring me some luck in my future Mega Raptor taming. So I took the majestic beast back to my base, grabbed some carrots, suited up in my ghillie armor, and with just 2 quick feeds, the unicorn was tamed.
All right, sweet. That was an easy tame. We got ourselves a frickin' unicorn, baby. Look at that.
While here at base, it was time for another round of imprints on the baby Ankies, and I took a moment to break down a metal behemoth gate I'd gotten out of a drop for some extra metal ingots. Speaking of metal ingots, the forge had finished cooking all the raw metal from Jalapeno's last run, so I set up a drop box nearby to quickly move the bars into storage. With that sorted, I headed back out to continue my search for Mega Raptors, starting with taking out a level 50 that I had spotted when I grabbed the unicorn. Of course, while searching for the beast, I also grabbed every drop I could find in hopes of the Anki saddle BP, until finally I spotted another Mega Raptor worth taming. This one was only a level 115, but at this point I was willing to settle. So I rushed to clear out all the other creatures in the area to avoid anything messing up the tame and approached the spike to begin the challenge. But this one went even worse. The knockout process never even began, as instead, the Mega Raptor just attacked me normally along with a pal of his, leaving me to flee on foot in a desperate attempt to get my wyvern uncryoed and me to safety.
Did I not start the process? I'm so confused. Did I not start the process? What just happened? Oh, there's 2 of them again. Oh my gosh.
Once we were clear, I returned to take out the second Mega Raptor, a pathetic level 5, and it was time to once again start the challenge. But again, the challenge messed up for no apparent reason. I restarted it again, and again it just stopped. So frustrated, I returned home as my Ankies were due for another imprint, and not long after imprinting on them, they were fully grown. I wasted no time getting them involved with the breeding party, and once they laid their eggs, got them all hatching along with another Deinonychus egg. Unfortunately, the Deinonychus baby once again lacked the stat combo I wanted, and so I had to do away with it. But on a positive note, the Anki hatching brought a set of twins as well as 4 females that would help speed up my breed line. I of course got them all raising right away. Once they were on the trough, I headed back out to give the Mega Raptor taming another go. After getting the area clear, I first cleared out the area around the spikes of rocks that I thought might be getting in the way. But after starting the challenge, I was met with more frustration. It had bugged out again, and this time, the Mega Raptor was nowhere to be found. At this point, I couldn't be bothered to deal with any more buggy Megaraptors, and instead, I returned home to grab all the gear I needed for more bee taming, as I desperately needed to get more honey going for eventually making veggie cakes. While out searching, I of course stopped in the loot cave once again, and this time it did have one decent find, a pre-made Ascendant compound bow. From there, the search for bees became my main objective for the rest of the day, but the creatures who once seemed to be around every corner were now nowhere to be found. I returned to base at the end of the day, beeless and beaten down, as my Yankees were in need of another imprint. Once they were good, I resumed my bee hunt when almost immediately I found something unexpected instead, a level 140 Autumn Drakeling. I would have preferred a spring one, but I couldn't pass up such a high level. The taming process started off a bit rough though. I completely fumbled the crafting task and the timer ran out before I could finish, so I had to start over. This time though, everything went much smoother. Only problem was I hadn't planned on taming a Drakeling, so I only had cooked meat on me. But I stuck with it, and eventually the Drakeling was tamed. Taming the Drakeling gave me a nice experience boost, so I decided to return to the Alpha Rex I had spotted earlier to try to take it down and capitalize on the boost. But again, it proved to be more than my Wyvern and me could handle, so I left defeated. Then, just as the experience boost wore off, I ran into a much more manageable target, an Alpha Carno. Despite not having the boost, I took it out, and it still granted me 1 level. From there, I did another cave run for loot, which proved to be almost pointless. And yes, I know I'm doing this a lot, but it was very important I find a good Anki Saddle BP for the boss fight, and this cave's loot respawns like every 30 minutes. And then the rest of the day was once again spent just looking for bees with 0 luck. I checked areas I had found them before, I checked other areas that they allegedly spawned in, and just found nothing. It was becoming frustrating, but I knew I needed to keep trying. And keep trying I did, but instead of finding a bee, a Microraptor found me first, chasing me down and dismounting me from my Argent.
Oh gosh! What the heck, man? That's the first time I've been Microraptored. I'm gonna shotgun you so hard when I can, brother. Oh my gosh, dude. That thing came up literally just hunting me down from behind.
After dealing with the pest, I pressed on my Argent, figuring it would allow me to stay lower to the ground and was quieter so I might hear the bees. And sure enough, when I returned to one of my old reliable spots, that old familiar sound filled the air.
This was the good area. Come on, man. Oh, I hear one! I hear one! I hear one! Oh, it's right here! Oh my gosh.
So I slipped into my ghillie, sprayed myself with some bug repellent, and just like that, I had another bee.
Got it! Yes!
With renewed hope, I kept searching, but before long, it was time to head home for a final Anki imprint. Before going though, I stopped at one of the nearby beaver dams to loot some more flowers I would need for fueling my newest hive. When I returned home, 2 of the Yankees wanted to be hand-fed berries, but the only problem was not only did my trough not have the desired berries, it was almost out of berries entirely. Fortunately, with Ruru's help, I was able to gather some quickly and fully imprinted on all of the Yankees. Still, I needed more berries, so I kept Ruru working hard until I had enough to restock the trough. After that, I set up my newest hive alongside the others and filled it with rare flowers to kickstart the honey production. Next, I crafted 8 new medium crop plots as well as 2 large ones, as my next goal was to relocate my crops and to begin setting up for growing the Elderclaw seeds I had found earlier. Of course, I needed to place down a new water intake in the waters below my treehouse and a new water tank on the 2nd floor of the build to keep the crops irrigated. Once the water system was in place, I returned to my original greenhouse to pillage all the crops, seeds, and fertilizer from the old crop plots. And then back in the treehouse, I replanted the crop seeds, and sure enough, this greenhouse does in fact give the 300% bonus. And with everything planted minus the Elderclaws, I stored all the crops I had picked into my fridge for safekeeping. Then, just when I thought things were going smoothly, a Serrato managed to get into my base, causing total chaos.
Saddle is on, what's it called? What? A Serrato? But why? Where did that come from? How did that get in? Oh my gosh, man.
With it dealt with, I had the fun task of getting all my Yankees back into their breed pile to resume the egg production, and moving all my tames back out of the cluster, ensuring everything minus a select few were now set to passive. And to wrap up the day, I started hatching the next round of Anki eggs along with a Deinonychus egg. I started the next day checking my resources for raising the Elderclaws when I noticed another invader. A Diplo had wandered into my base.
Biotoxin? What is making that noise? I swear, if a freaking Diplo is in my base pushing my stuff around, I'm gonna lose my mind. Oh my gosh, dude. Why is this a thing? Why is stuff just in here? Because he's walking right over the spikes, that's why. He doesn't care about them. Diplos can walk right over, apparently. Okay, good to know. I don't even care at this point. I simply don't care.
It was quickly dealt with, but after checking again, I realized I'd need to gather biotoxin, leech blood, and black pearls to grow the outer claws. During all of this, my baby Deinonychus had hatched, and to my delight, it had the stat combo I was looking for. Shortly after, the Yankees hatched as well, and I moved them into storage to raise later, but the Deinonychus I started raising right away. Next, I crafted arrows I would need on my next adventure, which also completed another skill task. Since I was already at it, I decided to tackle the final one, crafting 25 thatch structures. With that done, I unlocked the hot-blooded skill using the skill points I had earned. With that, I set off to find my next tame, an Ichthyosaurus, stopping first to harvest an ovis for mutton, where I would spot and mark the location of a level 120 Megaraptor altar, just in case I feel like torching myself further. Then it was time to dive beneath the waves in search of my very own dolphin, and it didn't take long to spot a level 110 that would get the job done.
Level 110. You know what? We'll take it. We'll take it. All right, cool.
Easy enough. A level 110 dolphin.
I sprinted out of the water to grab mutton off Elsa, only to return to find that the dolphin had seemingly disappeared. Thankfully, I tracked it down eventually, fed it some mutton, and after hanging around in the water feeding my new friend a few more times, it was tamed. I gave it a saddle I had brought from home and named it Flipper. Now riding Flipper, I set out immediately into the seas to hunt down jellyfish for their biotoxin. Of course, the first one I found had a megalodon guarding it that I would have to take out first. After dealing with the shark, I harvested the jellyfish for the biotoxin I needed, and later on I found another jellyfish and took it out, giving me enough biotoxin to safely raise the outer claw. I came ashore where I would cryo my dolphin, which would turn out to be a massive mistake. There I was on my way to run the loot cave once more when I realized cryoing the dolphin meant I had dropped the toxin.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, the dolphin. I dropped the biotoxin. Oh buddy. Oh, I have to, where did I freaking get off at? There's no way I'm finding this.
So I rushed back to the area to find the bag, a seemingly impossible task, but after a bit of searching, I got lucky and spotted it.
Yeah, we were really close to the green ob. That's a good, yeah. There it is right there. Oh my gosh, it's right there. Oh, if he could just freaking land. I see it. I see that dirty bag in the water. Land, brother, land! I need to get the dang bag. I didn't go hunting for biotoxin for nothing.
Oh, we got it. Holy crap.
So now I could head back for another run at the loot cave, which would give me a very nice shotgun BP that I'll likely never make, but nothing else worth noting. With that, it was time to return home for my baby Deinonychus' first imprint, and after doing that, I cryoed my best Spino and grabbed some scuba gear out of storage in preparation for retrieving the remaining outer claw requirements. For the leech blood, I would need to head into the aberration zone, but on the way, I was distracted by one of my favorite tames, a Cosmo.
Cosmo! There's a Cosmo right here! Oh, there's a Cosmo! Oh my goodness gracious, you gotta be kidding me.
Nearby I found some glowbugs who would give me the chitin I needed for taming it, and I quickly began the process. Only problem was I couldn't for the life of me make out the color it was presenting, and the Cosmo would blast me with webs, breaking my armor.
Oh!
Undeterred, I tried again, and this time things went much smoother. Eventually the Cosmo was tamed, and I named her Wanda. Of course, I had to immediately begin swinging around the caves of the aberration zone until I ran out of ammo, leaving me to plummet to the ground and my death. Respawning back at base, I crowded up Rubru and took off on Periwinkle to retrieve my body. I would make it back to the spot of my latest mishap and pushed on further into the riverbeds. Here, I would use my Spino to harvest what lampreys I could find, providing me with a small batch of leech blood. I continued searching for more into the next morning, but after combing through the area for a while, I couldn't find any more. So instead, I began trying to make my way out of the aberration zone, this time using Wanda, with my Pteranodon following close behind. I was completely lost though, having no idea how to get out when I had a brilliant idea. Why not just grapple to the Pteranodon and let it fly me around?
Heck yeah, brother, we're out of here. Cheating the aberration zone. Dude, this is great. We'll just do this. This is the most, like, I don't come up with many smart things, right? I don't have many, like, brain blowing up moments, but this is a smart one. This was a good one.
To my surprise, it actually worked, and after spending some time admiring the area from above, we finally found our way out.
We're out, Periwinkle. No, Periwinkle, we're out. Keep going. Yeah, we're going home, Periwinkle. Just keep flying, girl.
But when I made it home, my Deinonychus had already finished raising, and unfortunately, it wasn't fully imprinted. I didn't have time to dwell on that though. There was still one last resource I needed to raise the outer claw, black pearls. So I threw on my scuba gear, hopped on Flipper, and headed out into the depths. I found the entrance to the underwater cave easily enough, and after a short dive, I hit the jackpot. Black pearls glimmering across the ocean floor.
Oh yeah, come on, baby. Give me them sweet pearls.
I gathered as many as I could, but before long, things took a turn. I completely lost track of where I'd come in and spent what felt like forever trying to find my way back out. After searching for far too long, I finally admitted defeat and swam towards an alternate exit. Eventually, I broke the surface and took in the warmth of the sun. Once back home, I grabbed the bear seeds I'd been holding onto and got to planting. One of the seeds wanted leech blood and the other wanted sap. I spent some time tending them both, and by the end of the day, both were growing nicely and had already advanced to the next stage. Early into the next day, both of the plants had advanced to their third stage, but there was just one problem. They were absolutely devouring my stock of bee honey I needed for future veggie cake production. Eventually, the first one was ready to harvest, and I claimed it right away. The second followed soon after, and when I checked their stats, the level 140 was now a level 210 with 40 points in health and 44 in melee. Of course, I wasted no time getting both out to start raising, as an experience boost from taming them filled my veins. Unfortunately, I was not ready for it at all and had no way to take advantage of it to get me more levels. A little while later, I realized that I had never actually named the drakeling we tamed, and so I named her Leaf. With that done, I turned my attention back to baby raising, first cryoing the outer claws to hold momentarily, and then I collected a fresh batch of Anki eggs that Bean had been guarding. I set them out to hatch and began crafting a new stockpile of cryos I'll need once they do. Before long, the Anki eggs had hatched, and I wasted no time getting them all out to start raising as the final members of my boss army. With so many new mouths to feed, I took Ruru out for another big berry run to keep everyone fed. And once the Ankis were raised a bit, I brought the outer claws back out so all my growing creatures would stay on the same imprint timer, to avoid having to make multiple trips home for imprinting. After making sure everything was running smoothly at base, I grabbed my fur armor and that beast of a compound bow I'd looted earlier, then set out towards the snow to hunt for more artifacts. This cave is known as the Snow Cave. It holds both the artifact of the Cunning and the artifact of the Destroyer, and is located roughly right here on your map. Now luckily, this is another cave that you can weirdly use a flyer in, making it much easier to avoid all the nasties like high level bears and hidden Perlovias by just staying high. Before long, I had already made my way to the first artifact in the cave and grabbed it up along with a sword skin. Confidence growing, I pressed on quickly to the second artifact perched on a ledge above it and began raining down arrows like I was atop the walls of Helm's Deep. Until at one point I tried checking to see what was left and nearly lost it all.
Oh, that was a Perlovia. Oh my gosh. Dude. Holy crap. Where did it go? A Perlovia just skyrocketed out of the ground after me. Oh my gosh.
Tragedy avoided, I continued picking off the remaining beasts until finally I was clear to grab the second artifact. And with two artifacts in hand, I headed home when I would need to stop for stamina, much to the dismay of a pack of Trudons.
Jeez. You can't land for 2 seconds, the Trudons come flying in. I just need some stamina, brother.
Still on my flight back home, I spotted a purple drop and went to grab it, but just as I landed, I heard that familiar buzzing sound.
Bee, there's a bee over here, there's a bee over here, there's a bee over here. I heard a bee.
So I hurried home, suited up in my ghillie, and grabbed bug spray and flowers before returning to the spot. When I got there, I realized it wasn't just one bee, it was two.
Oh, there's two of them over here. There's two of them. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. There's actually two.
I quickly tamed the first one, only to then realize there were actually 3 bees.
There's 3 of them! Oh, baby, jackpot!
Unfortunately, the second one did not go as smoothly as I struggled to feed it the rare flower, but after some persistence, I finally managed to get it tamed as a Diplo watched closely. Speaking of Diplos, back in my base, another Diplo had found its way in and was wreaking havoc, so I scrambled to pick up my Yankees to avoid missing any imprints. I got them out one at a time to imprint on each one individually, which took forever, but it was important to make sure I don't miss any more imprints. With that done, I set up my 2 new hives to boost honey production, then returned to search for that third bee. It had seemingly vanished until I finally found it almost directly behind where I tamed the second one, humming peacefully like it had been watching me the whole time. It didn't take long to get the third bee tamed, completing the trio and taking my honey empire to new heights. Greedy, I stayed searching for more when I spotted a level 150 Elder Claw. Even though I probably wouldn't grow it, I couldn't resist taking it down for the seed. Once back at base, I placed the latest hive and stocked it with flowers, then picked through my crops so the next batch could start growing. Later that day, I ran the lava cave again, but the loot gods still weren't smiling on me. So instead, I headed to the beach to harvest dolphins for polymer when I would spot yet another bee.
A bee! There's another bee right here. Oh my gosh, we got another bee. Holy crap. All right, we're gonna mark this.
I marked the bee on my map and continued the dolphin harvest, but when I circled back around, I realized it was actually 2 bees.
This is surely the same bee, right? Oh, there's 2 over here. Oh my gosh, there's actually 2 bees. The bees have started to show up in plenties.
So I rushed home with polymer in hand and used it to craft as many metal arrows as I possibly could, stocking up for more caving adventures. Another round of imprints on the Yankees started the next day off right, and once they were all imprinted, I released the entire group to raise together, an army of living bulldozers all growing in sync. Next, I flew back to the spot I'd marked earlier and tamed both the bees I'd found there. The process went perfectly, no stings, no surprises, just smooth taming. With them tamed, it was time for my next cave. This one is a brand new cave I'm gonna call the White Chalk Cave. It holds the artifact of the Skylord and is located roughly right here on your map. Again, with this cave, I was able to actually fly in on Periwinkle, where I would land on a small island in the middle of the lake. From here, I threw on my scuba tank and flippers and made my way down into a water tunnel towards the artifact room. I made it through only to notice a school of piranha had been hot on my tail the whole time.
There we are.
Oh, buddy! We gotta get out of the water.
That's a lot of fish. Look at him just staring at me. Shut your mouth.
Once back on land, there were plenty of cave nasties that I would have to deal with, but with my powerful compound bow, I made short work of them and grabbed the artifact once the room was clear. Before leaving the room, I harvested some glowing pink plants for organic polymer, and then it was back into the water where I would fight my way through the army of piranha until I was back in the main room. Then, before leaving the cave, I spotted a red cave drop sitting amongst some nasties. I cleared them out one at a time and grabbed the drop.
That is disgusting. And that's actually cheap. That is disgusting and cheap. Is that better than the helmet I'm wearing? Yeah. Oh my gosh, that is disgusting.
Then, while fighting my way towards another loot drop, I made a terrible mistake. I got Lucifer with my arrows and struck down the wrong target.
Oh, I just killed my Pteranodon. Oh my gosh, I killed it. Oh, buddy, no. Periwinkle, you've come so far. And I just did you like that.
To make matters worse, the drop that cost Periwinkle its life ended up not being worth it. So I made my way out of the cave on Elsa instead, and before heading home, made a detour to the tundra to harvest rhino horns I would need for another plan. When I made it back to base, I cryoed my Yankees for their final round of imprints, but first I put up some loot I had gathered, set up my 2 latest hives, and got some more Deinonychus eggs hatching in hopes of replacing the perfect stat one I failed to imprint fully. With that all done, I returned to the task of getting each Yankee out for their final imprint. By morning, every Yankee was finally fully imprinted, 100% done, and stronger than ever. With that taken care of, I turned my attention to the Deinonychus eggs. One of them hatched with a perfect stat combo, so I immediately began raising it while storing the freshly raised Yankees to let them gain passive experience. After a quick meat run to keep the little Deinonychus fed, I used some of my polymer stockpile to repair my gloves and craft more metal arrows. Then it was time to put those rhino horns to good use, brewing up a broth of enlightenment to maximize my experience gains. From there, I returned for round 3 with the Alpha Rex that had bested me twice before. I lured one of them down away from the other, but while doing so, spotted yet another bee brigade.
Another bee! There's another bee over here. What the heck? Why is there a bee here? Oh, there's 2 of them. There's 3 of them. There's 3 bees here.
Those would be for later though, as first the Alpha Rex had to fall. With the experience boost active, I fired arrows from a distance while avoiding both the Rex and a Megaraptor that wanted to get involved, until eventually its massive body collapsed.
There he goes. Nice.
Granting me just 1 whole level, but that level was 89, which meant I could unlock the industrial cooker. Before wrapping up, I spent the rest of the day clearing out a few more threats around the area, pushing my Drakeling's experience up to the clean 30,000 XP. When the Deinonychus finished growing, I'd funnel it all into that beast. The next day, I rushed home to grab my bee taming gear for the 3 I had just spotted, and when I returned for the tames, everything went surprisingly smooth. All 3 bees were tamed without any issue. On my way back, I had noticed a whole slew of beach dolphins along the shore, so I made a short detour over to harvest them for more poly, when I would once again be greeted by the sound of another buzzing bee, which I would tame without issue as well. When I did make it back to base, it was time for my first imprint on my newest Deinonychus, and once it was taken care of, I set up the 4 new hives alongside the many others. From there, I pulled the polymer from Elsa and used it to patch up my nearly broken armor. With the remaining polymer, I finally crafted the industrial cooker and placed it neatly beside the fridges. But then came a tragic turn. I had planned on using mushroom brews to negate the effects of the aberration radiation zone, stone so I could get the artifact. Only problem was I completely forgot Mushroom Brew requires gas balls, which are something I have no way of gathering currently. So instead, I shifted focus and repaired my scuba gear in preparation for running a different cave. Before I could go caving though, I needed to wait for another Deinonychus imprint. So in the meantime, I went out to gather more polymer for making a chemistry bench. But unfortunately, there were no dolphins to be found. So instead, I stopped at a nearby lake I knew had pearls, as I needed some for making electronics. The lake didn't provide enough though, so I hit up a few beaver dams, carefully looting what pearls I needed while fending off their angry owners until I had enough. With enough pearls, I returned home to drop everything off, and while there, I grabbed my best Siglot of storage to go gather more polymer. On the way, I stopped at another red drop, which had some riot boots in it, completing my set of overpowered riot armor. Then, diving into the white chalk cave again, I cleared out every hostile in sight and harvested a solid haul of organic polymer. Back at base, the next day began with the final imprint on my newest Deinonychus, who was destined for the boss fight. And with that done, I turned my focus back to crafting the mountain of electronics I'd gathered the pearls for. While those ticked away, I checked over the boss tribute requirements and realized I was still missing a few key pieces: Sarco skins, 1 Argent Talon, and Titan Bow of Venom to unlock the Gamma version of the fight. Soon the electronics were finished, and I used them to craft the chemistry bench, placing it down and using it to whip up a few batches of absorbent substrate, which I would turn into 6 gas masks I'll need for a future cave. By the time I was done, the Deinonychus had fully grown, and so I poured all the stored experience from Leaf into it, giving it a massive amount of points, which I would put some into weight and the rest straight into health. Then I was greeted by another surprise. The Elder Claws had finished raising as well, and so of course I had to do a quick test to see how powerful the stronger of the two was. Satisfied with the showing, I named the 2 Elder Claws Brute and Bobble Bear. And I named the boss Deinonychus Feather Duster. Before the night closed out, I armed myself with extra grapples, scuba gear, and parachutes, ready to take on another trial tomorrow. Of course, first I had to go get the Ascendant Horde chest that I'd been rewarded for maxing out Leaf's experience. It would spawn in a very interesting spot, but luckily I still managed to reach it to find it had some really good loot inside, just nothing I particularly needed. Weighed down by the hall, I swung by base to unload everything and realized I'd been carrying a ridiculous amount of organic polymer that I'd stored on Leaf. After lightening the load, I set out again, heading towards another artifact cave I hadn't yet explored. This cave is known as the Lost Temple. It holds both the artifacts of the Brute and the artifact of the Devourer, and is located roughly right here on your map. And this is the first cave we can't fly in, so it was out with Bubble Bear, and after opening the door via a hidden button, we were charging in. Before long, we reached our first obstacle in the form of a large drop, and as I started slowly making my way down on Bulba, I noticed a massive amount of bats were waiting for me below. So instead of going to them, I used my rifle to lure the bats to me, but just as they began approaching, I hit the wrong attack command and instead sent Bulba diving off the rock to the waters, hundreds of feet below. Chaos would unfold as eels began to shock us, but luckily we were able to make our way to solid ground, where I would drop down a totem to boost my attack damage, and one by one, Bulba took out each and every pest. Then as I was trying to squeeze Bulba through the cave, I would notice something very questionable about him.
What the frick was that thing? There's actual, those are not appropriate. Those don't look appropriate at all. Okay, well, my dude is literally letting things off. Trying to put that out of my mind, I eventually made it to the first artifact room, and after clearing out the pest, it was time to grab the artifact. There was just one problem.
Is it up there? I thought it was like right in here somewhere. Oh, I bet, you know what? I bet it's underneath the floor. Yeah, it's underneath the floor. It's not, I'm like, I know the artifact's supposed to be right here. Where is the artifact? It's underneath the floor. That's hilarious. Good job. That's very typical. Luckily, I was able to get the problem solved totally legitimately. So I actually just typed up a trouble ticket real quick on somebody from Wildcard jumped in and they gave it to me, so we're good. In all seriousness though, yes, I had to ghost into the floor to retrieve the artifact. I'm playing on single player, and if I don't do that, the artifact will literally just sit in the ground forever. The next morning started with me clearing a path, this time through a large boulder that was blocking the way to the second artifact. And once on the other side, I found myself clearing another path, this time through the usual cave bad guys. After fighting my way through, I finally reached the artifact chamber, where the artifact sits perched high above the pit of instant death. To avoid any mishaps, I cleared the room of every single bat using my ultra powerful bow, and then I grappled my way over to a yellow loot drop that ended up being a bummer. From there, I used a combination of parachutes and grapples to maneuver my way up to the artifact's perch for its extraction. Now the only thing standing between me and freedom was the cave's flooded exit, which of course had an eel waiting to make things exciting.
Just keep moving, brother. Just keep going, just keep swimming, just keep swimming.
A quick swim through the second water tunnel and the pressing of a few buttons, and I was free of the cave with 2 new artifacts to show for it. Once home, I set up all my artifacts on displays for no reason reason other than my own personal admiration, and then it was back to work crafting more grapples for my next caving adventure. Before leaving though, I got out one of my most recently raised Ankies to see what sort of levels it had gained sitting in its cryo, and thankfully it had already gotten enough to reach nearly 15,000 health. On the way to the next cave, I stopped at another uninspiring drop, but as it cleared, I spotted something else, an Alpha Carno. I quickly took it out from atop a ledge, and when I did, it gave a nice chunk of experience to the Drakeling, and also another level for me. From there, I turned my sights back towards the Aberrant Zone, venturing deep below to hunt for Sarcoskins and to locate the next artifact. Before long, I reached a murky lake near the radiation zone and began clearing out everything in sight. My goal was to find a lamprey and let it bite a hold of me to allow its natural radiation immunity to protect me as I retrieved the artifact. After clearing out everything with no lampreys to find, I left the area to try letting one respawn when I would stumble upon 3 gas veins, which will spit out loose gas balls from time to time. Seeing how I only needed 3 to make a mushroom brew, I took my chances, but the ball disappeared faster than I could grab it, and the toxic fumes nearly killed me in the process. So I returned to the lake for another lamprey search, but again my efforts went unrewarded. I was running out of ideas and patience, so I crafted a sleeping bag just in case things went wrong, and stashed all my belongings on the Spino. Just for fun, I poked my head into the radiation zone just to see if it was even possible, and quickly found out it was in fact not, as the radiation melted through my health like ice in the desert. So my lamprey search continued, and while doing so, I found a few of the Sarcos I needed to harvest for the precious skins to summon the boss. Then, while fighting a Carcanos in the river, I made a fatal mistake. A poor defenseless lamprey wandered too close and got caught in the crossfire. Thankfully, this part of the river must have been their breeding grounds because another lamprey was swimming nearby. So I got on my wyvern and it was time to enact my plan. I swam alongside the lamprey until it picked up the scent of my juicy blood-filled body and latched itself to me. From there, I tried to have my wyvern take flight in hopes to use my grapple strategy to quickly make it back to the radiation zone, but forgot you have to have flyers follow you first to get them to fly. So in a moment of panic, I began swinging my way over with Wanda instead, until I reached a point where I felt it would be faster to just run with my Spino. It was a race against the clock, but eventually I made it back to the entrance. This area is called the Unknown. It holds the artifact of the Immune, and the entrance I'm using is located roughly right here on your map, within the Aberration Zone of course. I began swinging my way down to the artifact, which conveniently is located basically right below this entrance, and in no time at all, I had it within my grasp. But this is where things got rather embarrassing. I don't know if I've just completely forgotten how to use a Cosmos since Aberration, or if I was just cracking under the pressure, but my attempts to swing out, whether it be with Wanda or grapple hooks, went very, very bad. I found myself sitting on a ledge with a timer running down, afraid I wouldn't make it out at all, when suddenly I remembered what I was doing and made a last-second dash out of the radiation.
Here we go. We're out now, baby. We're going. Oh, we're gonna make it. We're actually gonna make it. We're actually gonna make it out. Oh, we did it. Woohoo! We actually did it. We actually did it. It was terrible. It was a terrible display of our professionalism, but we did it. Wow. Oh my gosh, dude. That was pathetic, but it's a success nonetheless.
With the artifact barely secured, I returned to retrieve Elsa, and then stuck around the Aberration Zone a good while longer until I finally found the last Sarco I needed to complete my skin collection. On my way back home, I decided to stop off and take out a random Argentavis to secure the last few talons I needed as well, leaving just Titan Boa Venom to collect. And once back in the treehouse, I placed my newest artifact on the pedestal, and then took a moment to check how my honey production had been coming along. The results were a total of 201 honey, which if I want each Anki to have 10 veggie cakes, I'm still 180 short. Before continuing with the honey though, I took a moment to name the unicorn I had tamed days ago, this time with the help of my little girl.
I want to name it Rose.
After that, it was back to the honey business, crafting an additional fridge I would need to store the remaining supply of honey. Then, just above my base, I noticed an Alpha Carno that would have to be dealt with, and taking it down would reward me with a large boost to my Drakeling stored experience. Feeling the momentum, I went hunting for a few more creatures to finish off maxing Leaf's XP, then dumped it all into Feather Duster, my boss fighting Deinonychus. Unfortunately, it only gained 5 levels, but every bit helps for what's coming. As the day went on, I brought out all the Yankees to get them leveled and ready, giving them time to heal up in their cryos before the real fight begins. With them sorted, I hunted down the horde chest I had received from my Drakeling, and while the loot was incredible, it again was nothing I needed. Drop hunting continued though, still desperate for an Anki and Deinonychus saddle, when a purple drop would leave me shocked.
Wow. I mean, I don't even have words at this point. I simply don't even have words. I can't even begin to express my disbelief for what I just saw.
The hunt continued though as I made another run through the loot cave, hoping today would finally be the day it paid off. But again, there was no such luck, just more junk to drag home and toss into storage. After dropping off the latest pile of disappointment, I grabbed my gas masks and prepared for what would be the final cave standing between me and boss readiness. I set out feeling confident right up until I realized I had forgotten my antidotes, so it was right back home again before attempting round 2. This cave is known as the Lair, and it sits tucked within a trench that has been made home by a roaming broodmother. Inside the cave though is the artifact of the strong, the artifact of the pack, and the artifact of the immune, and the cave is located roughly right here on your map. And sure enough, Mama Brood was literally guarding the entrance of the cave, leaving me with no choice but to throw on my gas mask and drop down from above on Bulbabear, charging into the cave with the broodmother in my rear view.
Yeah, suck on that.
Only to have her chase me straight into the cave.
Oh! Oh my gosh, she's in here! Bulbabear, you gotta move, brother. You gotta move, brother. She's in the cave! I didn't know she could fit her big fat butt in here. Are you serious? Oh my gosh. Okay, surely she cannot fit through here.
Once I was free of her, I began clearing out the cave of its normal bad guys, but I was already realizing this cave was much tougher than some of the others I've faced to this point. Deep in the cave, things finally started breaking my way. Early on, I looted a drop with an Ascended Torch blueprint, which would have been unbelievably useful back when I was torturing myself trying to tame a Megaraptor.
Nice. Wait! Holy crap, wait! Wait! There's a Ascended Torch in there! We could still tame a Megaraptor, folks! We could still tame a Megaraptor! Oh, I mean, we don't have the time to do it anymore, but hello. Finally.
Not long after, things went south as I nearly lost Bulbabear to a giant horde of enemies.
Oh, we're webbed. Oh no, this is actually bad. This is actually really bad. Oh, we're re-webbed. Oh, we're gonna lose our bear. We're gonna lose our freaking bear. Oh, we're just continuously getting webbed. Oh my gosh, I'm about to lose my bear. I'm gonna lose my bear to just junk. Oh gosh, we gotta go. We gotta go.
Luckily, I managed to escape deeper into the cave, and after a short time, I was making my way across a small jump to the artifact of the strong. Then, continuing on towards the second artifact, I approached an underwater section. Unfortunately though, I forgot my scuba gear, but luckily this underwater section was short, and so I made it through safely. On the other side lay the artifact of the pack, and with it I had every artifact I needed for Gamma. I'd planned on collecting every artifact on Valguero, but with time getting tight, I decided 9 out of 10 would be enough. Now the only problem was trying to find my way out. The cave twisted in circles, but at least it gave me enough time to heal Bulbabear along the way. I finally found the exit, only to discover the broodmother planted squarely in my path, determined to keep me stuck inside her lair for the remainder of the 100 days.
The broodmother is literally blocking the exit. There's no way past her. Oh my gosh, I'm stuck in this cave. Well, folks, that's the end of this 100 days video. We are going to spend the last 6 days or 4 days, whatever, inside this cave, looking at the broodmother's legs from around this corner, because there is no way past her.
But I was more determined. I unloaded every single shotgun shell and rifle bullet I had straight into her swollen spider butt sack. When my ammo ran dry, it was Bulbabear's turn, opening with a vine attack that did little more than mildly annoy her. I tried everything, positioning, ledges, angles that looked cheesable, but no, she wasn't having it. The broodmother does not get cheese. Eventually, I had one option left. Pure recklessness. I crowd up Bulbabear, and the moment she let out her next roar, I took my chance. Dead sprinting between her legs towards the exit of the cave, sweat dripped from my brow, and I may have soiled my pants in the process, but I made it out.
We're out of here, baby! Oh, baby! Yes, brother! Oh my gosh, holy crap. Oh my gosh, I might pee myself a little bit. I'm kidding, I'm kidding. Bro said clutch up, let's go.
Back home, I put the last few artifacts on display, even if they'll only be there for a moment. Then it was time to prep for a few final tasks. I grabbed my rifle and crossbow from storage, picked up the old Anki trap to reclaim some pieces, and in the spirit of grim necessity, I killed one of the sheep for mutton.
Hello. I'm gonna kill you now because I need mutton and... Thank you.
because it was time for a last minute reinforcement. Before the boss fight, my Yankees needed a proper medic, so I hunted down a Daedon and knocked it out. Nearby were 2 Alpha Carnos just waiting to roll in and crash my party, but thankfully they were no match for Elsa. I melted them both down, and Leaf soaked up the experience like a sponge. With that done, I headed off to the Wyvern Trench, this time not for eggs, but for milk. I scanned the area for some time until finally I found a level 10 female locked in a fight with our Rhino. With it being such a low level and me having such a powerful rifle, there was no need for a trap. A few shots later on the distracted beast and it was down, and I stole her milk before the Rhino finished her off.
Leave her alone, Rhino. I need the milk. Hey, chill. I need the milk. Chill. Give me that. Yes, there's a few. That's not enough, but it's a few.
Later in the night, another level 10 female took the bait and chased me straight into a mammoth. She got distracted, and I darted her to the ground, yoinking myself a second batch of milk.
Yes! Now we go. We run. We get the milk, while the mammoth stomps on her chest.
With enough milk, I returned to where I had left the Daedon, only to have Ark deliver one of its trademark moments of heartbreak.
Hilarious. Oh, you gotta be kidding me, dude. Oh my gosh, bro. In the freaking dirt.
So I had to improvise. I scouted the tundra and found a level 25 Daedon getting mauled by mammoths. I plucked out of chaos and hauled it home, dropping it off on one of my old platforms for the knockout. With it snoozing, I did what had to be done and sacrificed another sheep for the mutton I would need to begin taming the pig. While it tamed, I pulled out my strongest Yankees and pumped it full of experience from Leaf, taking its health to nearly 30,000. Before long, the Daedon woke up, and I named it Medpack. Then I got out the rest of the Yankees to give them a few more levels they had gained in Cryos, and to start healing them up. Before the day wrapped, I gathered the last of the honey from the hives, tucked it into the fridges, and went out with Ruru to strip the bushes bare of stimberries for making stimulants. The next day began with chemistry, the frantic, last-minute kind that only happens when a boss fight is looming over your shoulder. I got the first batch of stimulant brewed up, but it barely made a dent in what I needed. So I headed right back out, gathered another armful of stimberries, and got a second batch going as well. With that done, I headed off to a small island in the center of the ocean to harvest tree stumps for their tree sap.
Give me 45.
Sheesh, that boy was dripping. Before long, I had more than enough for making my veggie cakes. Back home, the only ingredient that remained was fiber, and so I headed out with my powerful sickle to gather what I needed. With every ingredient ready at last, I dumped them all into the cooker, and veggie cakes, the lifeline of my Yankee army, began churning out one after another. By the time the cooking was done, I had 139 sweet veggie cakes stacked and ready. As it turned to the next morning, day 100 was upon us, and so was the final preparation, starting with some last-second levels on every Yankee before cryoing up the whole army. With them handled, I handled myself. Med brews brewed and bottled, then a stash of backup arrows for the inevitable moment when things go wrong. Next came the Yankee saddles, primitive, ugly, absolutely disgraceful for a final fight. Deciding I might need some extra muscle to protect them, I would take my bear and best Spino, who is also my son's favorite dinosaur, so I named it Razor for him. Then came some spare armor, all the boss artifacts and tributes, and the wyvern milk for curing the bleed effect. Once I arrived at the obelisk, I outfitted every Yankee with the pitiful saddles I had made for them, and loaded them each up with veggie cakes to keep them healing. Then it was time for my plan. I split the Yankees into 2 groups, that way I could spread them out on the battlefield to rotate Grendel between each group so they don't all get damaged together at once. By the time I was done doing this, it was technically day 101, but it was time to do the fight. All I needed to do now was to name the Yankees. Of course, as usual, I asked you all for name suggestions, set them to a spin wheel, and this is what was picked. Gold Digger, and Kylo Ren, Crusher, Big Iron, Gerson Boom, Fulcrum, Anchor, Anarchy, Sir Flintsworth von Breckington, John Perora Zuaui, Doomspike, Bowser's Cousin, Phil, Rogan Rolla, Will Smith, Grendel Killer, Spanky the Anky, and Stabby Tabby. With that done, all that was left to do was to fire up the boss fight and see if we could pull it off.
Alright. I thought my Deinonychus did not make it. I was like, well, there goes the plan. I should have brought Spinos. Look at all the space. This isn't that small. I thought this arena was tidy. There's plenty of space for Spinos. Come on, Yankees. The Yankees are so far behind. Oh, this is gonna go so poorly. Group 1, you are going, like, well over there.
Like I said, my plan was to split my Yankees up into 2 groups, that way Grendel isn't just doing damage to all of them at the same time, but the plan pretty much immediately fell apart.
Oh gosh, Grendel's gonna get, or the bear's gonna get slaughtered. Group 1, what are you... Oh, this is already a disaster. Group 1, what are you doing? Group 1, get involved. Yeah, this is already... Okay, well, this is just a disaster already. Let's just have everything follow us. Screw it. The separating them thing is not going to work.
Things start off rough, but my Yankees were handling things well enough, and the first stage of lighting the torch was on us.
The Spino's going to get killed really quick because he's going to take more of the damage than everybody else. See, this is what I'm talking about. He's hitting me even though I'm back here. Oh, the Spino's already almost dead. Like, I'm getting hit even though I'm behind it. This is not good. Dude, my guy's already going down. How do I hit him without getting hit? My terrible saddle is not helping.
At this point, I was pretty sure things were going to go poorly, as even when I was behind Grendel, he was still able to hit my Deinonychus, and with a primitive saddle, we won't last for long.
Oh, there goes the Elder Claw. Well, that was a waste. Well, that was an absolute waste. The Elder Claw's already dead. Oh, we're going to take him to the Yankees, because it'll take them literally 6 years to get over here. I'm pretty sure the Yankees are going to die. We're not going to do this. Like, I have to be able to get to his tail, because that's the only place I can actually make contact with without getting hit. Oh my gosh, the Yankees are in the way.
Normally, the strategy for this is you would just stand at his butt and tank his hits, while you just attack over and over again to apply the bleed. But because we don't have a good saddle, we really can't afford to do that.
Yeah, there goes the Spino. Now it's all Yankees from this point. I don't know how the Yankees are holding up. I mean, we're doing some damage to him, but it just depends on how the Yankees are actually holding up. Oh, gosh. I got caught on it. Oh, he's just after me. He's just after me. Oh, I'm so dead. I'm on a tree. No, get off the tree, you idiot. I just can't hit him. Like, I have to jump because I don't have a good enough saddle to stay in there and just take the hits. Oh, I'm about to die. This guy's about to go down.
I would keep it going for a few more rounds when the moment of absolute realization that this wasn't going to happen started to sink in as Yankees started to die.
Oh, there goes an Yankee. Oh, we're done. It's over. It's already over.
And seeing as how I couldn't even get close enough to do any damage with my Deinonychus and it was almost dead, I resorted to just using my bow, which actually was kind of doing more damage than when I was trying to use the Deinonychus.
Oh, he's just mowing him down now. He's just mowing him down now. It's over. It's so over. The Yankees were a terrible plan.
Before long, all that was left was me on the Deinonychus and the one Yankee that had almost 30,000 health who had been stuck in a rock for some time, but I decided if I was going down, it was going to be on my Yankee.
Yep, I'm done. I'm done. Hold out, Yankee! We're going down on an Yankee. If we're going down, it's on an Yankee. And Feather Duster's ignoring group whistles. Oh, there goes Feather Duster. Feather Duster's down. But this Yankee refuses to surrender. This Yankee will not surrender to no one. Who are you? Who is this Yankee? Bro is getting absolutely mauled by Deinonychus and just taking him. I mean, I'm not gonna be able to get to the light fast enough, so it's gonna like just keep doing this. Oh wait, it's actually right here. What is happening right now? He's bugging out. He doesn't know he wants to fight me. Oh, he's going around a crazy way. Okay.
The Yankee held out for way longer than I would have expected, but eventually even the strongest heroes fall.
This Yankee refuses. Oh, no, he doesn't.
And so I was left on foot to try surviving another round of the mobs, which I actually surprisingly did.
It's you and me, Grendel. I'm not dying to your vultures.
But of course, as I summoned in Grendel, my heroic stand would come to an end. Alright folks, so obviously that did not go how I had hoped, but it pretty much went how I figured it would, without having good Yankee saddles, and more importantly, no good Deinonychus saddle. As soon as I realized Grendel could hit me even when I was behind it, I basically knew it was over. But we tried doing something different and fun using my favorite dino, so I can live with the results. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please hit the like button before you leave, and subscribe for future videos. Also, I once again want to say a huge thank you to War Thunder for sponsoring today's video. Remember, you can play it for free right now on PC, consoles, and mobile. And if you sign up using my link in the pinned comment or video description, new and returning players that haven't played in 6 months will get a bonus reward on PC and consoles, including some awesome vehicles and other goodies. This offer won't last long though, so sign up today. But with all of that said, I just want to tell you all thank you so much for being here today, checking out the video, and until next time, keep it crispy.